Well, welcome to the show.
This is our view from the bench.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Brendan, Chubb's missing right hand.
And I'm Corey, Dylan's right arm shooting a gun by itself. And happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday, man. You made it through the weekend. I, unfortunately, have started work, but it was a pretty chill weekend. How was it for you?
Not too bad. Concerts over the weekend were long days. Obviously, I worked Gloria Trevi Friday. I think that was 14 hours. And then I left at like 2 a.m. I had to be right back at 10:30 the next day for the Trilogy, Pitbull, Ricky Martin concert.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Actually, it was kind of fun. There was a lot of girls that dressed up with bald caps and glasses and
way.
Yeah, like Pitbull, and we're walking around. It was in groups too, not just like one randomly by themselves. So that was actually kind of funny. But overall, again, another long day, like 15 hours. I got out of there like 2:30 in the morning again and came home. Went to the Seals game down in San Diego yesterday and watched them kick some ass against the Colorado Mammoth, which is always
nice.
Because that's like our biggest rival. They always tend to beat us in the playoffs when it matters most, but we kicked their ass yesterday. So, and this was my first time seeing, which I know you know what a hat trick is, but if you score 6 goals, it's called a sock trick. And yesterday was the first time I saw one in person. And when Austin Stott scored his 5th one and they went to a TV timeout, the arena PA guy was like, "Hey, if he gets a 6th one, it's called a socks trick. And if he does it, like, please take your socks off now and bundle them up together. And if he scores it, like, throw it onto the field like a hat trick." And I was like, "Wait, is that real? And people actually took off their socks and threw them onto the field. I've never seen that before in my life.
That is new. I probably wouldn't have participated. I would have cheered loudly. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one then.
Yeah, I know.
That's not cool.
I know I had to drive back home from there after, and I was like, I'm not driving home for 2 hours in the rain with no socks on, possibly. I'm not going to do that. But a lot of people did, and then thankfully, the people that go out and pick up all the shit off the field had like gloves on when they were picking them up at the entry bin. So I assume they're either going to get thrown away or washed and maybe donated if they're not terrible shape. I don't know how that works with socks. That's not really my...
I would throw it away.
Yeah, I would hope so, right? That's what I was thinking. So, but otherwise, productive weekend as far as work, and then a big win yesterday. So how about you?
It was pretty chill. Real quick question for you. Did you guys sell a bunch of Dale hats?
Dude.
Or Dale shirts or
there
anything
was no
with Dale?
Dale hats.
Dale? What the Dale?
There was no hats or shirts that said that on it. It was weird. Okay, one side note to it, though. All 3 reps that we dealt with were super chill about each like individual artist's merch, but they were like, they said that the merch like management for Enrique people were kind of like a little bit involved, and we're like, okay, that's fine. And then like last minute they put up these signs that said like Enrique merch sold here, and like duct taped them up so it didn't look great. So we ended up having
duct tape.
Yeah, it didn't really look very like nice. So we ended up taking them down and not making it a big ordeal. But it was just funny that they were like, just a heads up, like this is something about signage and the way we do things, even though Enrique makes, I think, the least amount of money of the 3 on the merch. So I just thought it was kind of a funny side note. But again, survived the weekend, so it's all good.
Okay. Well, my weekend was fairly chill. Saturday I was super busy, dude, running around getting like just errands done, grocery store and Costco and Walmart, and my wife had a freaking flat tire, so we had to get that patched, an oil change for her, just like, just crap. But it was chill. I mean, it's nice kind of get stuff all done in one day, and then Sunday when the freaking rain started rolling in, I just went to church, grabbed some breakfast, and then kind of stayed inside because it has been insane here. It basically, like right now, I just went outside to take my dogs out. It had been raining, I think, for like 30 hours straight. Now, I'm not saying it's pouring, but it is constant rain, not drizzle, not mist. It has been constant rain for a long ass time, which is something we pretty much never get here in SoCal. So it is somewhat welcomed, like you said before, the dad phrase. Well, we do need it, so it's somewhat welcome, but it's just not fun. I don't mind the rain myself. I enjoy looking at it, and it's nice, all that kind of stuff. But when I have to take dogs outside and stuff like that, and it's just like pouring, and they don't even want to be out there, or just running around doing errands and stuff. That's why I tried to get it all done on Saturday, but.
Yeah,
it was pretty low key weekend for me, man. So, but
excited. You mentioned all the rain. My mom yesterday called me like before I left down to San Diego, like, please be careful, drive safe. Like it's gonna rain a lot. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I got you, no problem. And then the entire drive down to San Diego, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was like completely blue and beautiful. And then had breakfast at this. I don't remember where I had breakfast yesterday, but I had this EBLT, which was amazing, by the way.
Nice.
And then went to the game, left the game, still not raining in San Diego, and drove all the way back up and got to almost Irvine. And then all of a sudden, the rain finally hit me on the way back, and I was like,
"Oh, at least you were basically home."
Yeah, I was like 90% of the way back, and all of a sudden, I finally got the rain. But since I've been back, like you said, it hasn't stopped. So I'm just continuously looking outside and hearing rain like all day. It's crazy here.
Yeah, all day. It's nice. It's nice but crazy at the same time, for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, excited to get started. There's been a bunch of stuff kind of going on, even stuff that we reported on last time that has changed. So we're definitely gonna get into buckle up because we have a nice episode coming up for you. But before we get into anything, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you never ever miss an episode. Both are free. It costs you nothing to do so. And if you like what you're watching,
Smash it.
Smash the like button.
Again, free.
Also free. Yeah, exactly. Helps us out, makes us know, or helps us know that, somebody likes what we're doing besides myself. That's the only like button. Yeah, I mean, just let us know. Appreciate it. We do want to start the episode here with sharing our deepest condolences. There's been some loss of life recently around the actors realm and a little bit in the sports world. We want to share our condolences to Carl Weathers' family and close friends for their loss. Weathers, who is very well known for playing Apollo Creed in the Rocky series. He also was Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. Most recently, Grief Karga in the Mandalorian series. He also played linebacker at SDSU and then one season for the Raiders. Apparently, he passed away February 2nd at the age of 76. And according to those close to him, it was peacefully in his sleep. So wanted to kind of start the episode off with that since we missed the mark on the Warriors assistant coach who did the same thing. It took us a minute to kind of get back to that. So
yeah, and one more character he did play, just so people know where I came up with my intro today.
Oh,
he did play Dylan from Predator 2. So in case you don't know what I was talking about when I said I'm Corey with the rest of my description, that's where that came from, because Brennan and I both had to kind of look it up and make sure I was getting the right information there.
Yeah, so great actor. Obviously, I don't really know him for the 1 year he played for the Raiders. It was about 18 years before we were born. So, but yeah, great actor, and a lot of celebrities, and specifically Sylvester Stallone,
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, a lot of people were kind of just giving their praise to him and things like that. So, rest in peace, sir, and condolences to the family. Jumping into sports now. We're finally going to talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl. We're not making our predictions quite yet. Not quite yet. We're going to save that for Thursday's episode because that's obviously still have a couple more things. We don't know if Thuney's going to be able to go, the guard for the Chiefs. He's still up in the air with some people saying that he's likely to miss. So we're going to start with some preview questions and maybe some give or take, who would you rather have kind of things. Let's start it off with what I think is kind of something that is extremely important, which is matchups and figuring out, where one team can excel and where one team might have an advantage is important. So I'll throw it over to you first, man. Let me start with the question. What to you is the most important matchup between the two teams, obviously the Niners and the Chiefs?
Oh, man, so many matchups that come to mind. But the biggest one, I think, is going to be the Chiefs' defense against the 49ers' offense. We talk about how Shanahan just has so many weapons to play with, and as long as Brock Purdy does his job and is able to have time to play with them and do what they want to do, they're going to have a chance to win this game. But the Chiefs' defense has just been so good, especially, all season, but even in the playoffs. Shutting down Lamar and the Ravens down to 10 points last week. That was last week. God, it feels like forever ago at this point.
Yeah, it does, huh?
Last week in Baltimore. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. We talked about Spagnuolo. All the players just seem to think he is a genius on that side of the ball and what they need to do to stop people. So again, the Chief defense or offense all year has been a struggle to even watch. They don't have as many, at least not named, weapons on their side of the ball besides Mahomes and Kelsey. So it comes down to the defense doing their job and Pat just basically not turning the ball over and being able to win a game for them. But if it comes down to the wire and it's a close game, that Chiefs defense is going to have to step up big, and going up against Debo and Christian and Ayuk and Kittle. There's so many weapons on that side of the ball that I think ultimately Spagnuolo and the defense is going to be the biggest. That's the way they're going to win this game ultimately, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely the two strengths, I believe. Normally the Niners defense, and we'll get into that in a moment, would be pretty good. But they just haven't been as good of late. And again, we'll break down some numbers in a moment. But I think that's pretty accurate. The Chiefs have been basically carried, as one sports commentator wrote it. They've been riding the D all the way to the Super Bowl now.
So that was so great.
That was funny. That was funny. So and I couldn't agree more. That is a big one. I'm gonna go with something different. Obviously, I'd be kind of dumb if we both picked the same thing. In my opinion, I think it's gonna come down to how well that Chiefs line, which I just mentioned, Joe Thuney, is questionable and maybe highly questionable for the Super Bowl, one of the best guards in the league. Now he didn't play, from my understanding, or he left part of the Ravens game, and the backup was pretty good. I mean, that freaking Ravens defense is insane.
Yeah.
But this vaunted Niners pass rush is something else. The Niners have slipped overall a tad in cover defense. PFF grades them as a 64 overall, but they were almost untouchable during the regular season, grading it at 92.1. So a huge slip. Now, granted, it's only 2 games, right? They played
compared to
the Packers. Right. They played the Packers and the Lions, but that seems crazier, right? A 92 overall over 17 games and dropped down to 64 over 2. And mind you, it's rookie. I say that in quotes for those of you not watching on YouTube. Rookie Jordan Love, because obviously he's been in the league, but this is basically his first go around, his first season. And then Jared Goff, who a lot of people consider to be, average or just slightly above average at that. Well, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid combination is a completely different story and can make really good defenses look fairly mediocre, like the first few drives of that Ravens game. So I think it's going to be whether or not Bosa can really put pressure, make Mahomes maybe make quick decisions, maybe make some errors, which he hasn't made in some time now. And if Chase Young decides that this is going to be the one game that he decides to show up and play this month, I know it's a short month, so he has all the stock in it. But I think it's going to come down to that, whether or not Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw can split that rush as well. So that's what I think is kind of going to come down to, is the opposite, I guess, basically the Niners pass rush, seeing if the Chiefs O-line can kind of hold up.
It's not a bad way to think at it, too, because the last time the Chiefs were in a Super Bowl and they played against Tampa, their whole problem was the offensive line was not very good, which is ultimately what cost them that game against Brady and the Bucs. So it's a good point to focus on that. Like you said, this Niners defensive line, especially you got Chase Young and Bosa on the other end. Those guys are not gonna, and an Armstead, I believe, in the middle. So it's it's a lot of talent there. Honestly, that front seven really is just crazy, as you mentioned, the linebackers too. Like, just not going to be easy to go against them, but it's always hard to just pick against Pat Mahomes at the end of the day at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he seems to kind of make something, figure it out. And him and Andy Reid paired together is just something else. But if they're getting pressured and he doesn't have that time to really read the field, now granted, he doesn't need to sit back there and read a novel. He doesn't need that much time, right? I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best in the league right now, and arguably one of the best all time. So he's just not going to need that much, but you can't just let them run free, because Bosa, like you said, Armstead, Chase Young, they are coming, and they are coming strong. They are big dudes, and as much as they're not, they won't say that they're here to hurt. If he happens to be hobbled, they wouldn't mind it.
It definitely would make their lives a little easier. So now that we've gone through and we've done the biggest or most important matchup in a sense, what is the biggest X factor in your mind for this game?
Okay, and I'm going to stick with that side of the ball, to be honest with you. I think the biggest X factor is that Niners defense. That big swing over that time is just kind of crazy for me to see, because how do you go from arguably the best in the league to horribly in the league? PFF grades the Niners' run defense in the playoffs as an absolutely abysmal 46.5%, really only being above Buffalo amongst all 14 teams in the playoffs. So it's not great. And obviously you saw what the Chiefs did to the Bills in their divisional matchup. Again, it's down from the regular season. That wasn't great either. It was 68.4, but that was 10th in the NFL as opposed to 11th out of 12. So that seems to be great. If Pacheco and Hilaire, I guess this is my X factor, is the Chiefs running game / whether or not the Niners can stop it. Pacheco and Hilaire could do what Aaron Jones, Gibbs, and Montgomery did to them. It's going to be a long game for the Niners, and it's going to make, it's going to give Patrick Mahomes plenty of time to operate. They're going to be caught off guard with play action because the run's actually working. If Pacheco's chunking 6 to 8 yards a carry, it's going to be rough. So if you give Patrick Mahomes, that leeway when you're sitting on the rush, and it gives him time to sit back and drop the pocket and pick off that secondary, where it's going to be a long day for the Niners. So I guess the X factor for me is going to be that running game / the defense stopping it, Niners defense stopping it. What do you have as the biggest X factor here?
Man. I think it honestly all comes down to Brock Purdy. If the Niners give him time, and are able to run their offense and get, especially a lead, because we saw them go down 17 to the Lions at home and then come back and win. But if the Chiefs get any kind of lead early, that defense is so good. And Pat Mahomes, when they get the ball back, they're not going to just go 3 and out or waste any
or
of
go
their
for a
plays.
bunch of fourth downs.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be much smarter with it. Him and Reed and Mahomes have done this twice they've won twice in the last 3 Super Bowls. So they definitely know what they're doing in this case and are not going to let that go. But yeah, it comes down to Purdy. If the Chiefs defensive line can get to him and cause some issues and him even turn the ball over and give the Chiefs better field position and they win that battle, then the Chiefs are going to easily win this game, I think. And so it all comes down to Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant now becomes the most important piece of the Super Bowl run or possibility of winning it for the Niners, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. He's going to be a big factor. He's definitely under the gun, right? A lot of people are wondering. I'm one of them. I'll admit. People give him credit, and he should, man. He has to make the throws. He has to.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are like, man, remember that pass to Ayuk? No, that was an interception that didn't get caught. That's what it was. I'm not saying that's his fault, but he's the one who threw it. So that was an interception that bounced off the face mask, and Ayuk made a great / lucky play. They were the reason. He was the reason. Now, granted, you could say it's the play calling, but we just gave praise to Shanahan. He was the reason they were down 17 because they couldn't do anything. And like you talked about, that Lions defense is not the same as this Chiefs defense. The Lions defense was more of a bend and don't break. The Chiefs defense, if hitting on all cylinders you're not going anywhere,
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that one being a huge X factor as well. So this is one that has been kind of floating around the space here. Here's our last question before we go into a couple more matchup breakdowns. Do the Chiefs really have the NFL and the refs on their side, man? Because a lot of people keep saying, oh, well, of course they're going to make it. Now, before they beat the Ravens, it was, of course, going to be the Ravens and the Niners because the NFL is rigged. That's what I was saying. But now it's rigged because, of course, Patrick Mahomes, they just love, and Taylor Swift and Travis, So do they really have the refs on their side, man?
I don't know, man. I feel like this always comes up when there's a dynasty especially involved. It's always the refs or the league has something to do with it. But at the end of the day, like, Pat Mahomes has still got to make the throws and the guys still got to make the catches regardless of the penalties that are called. But I just think it's funny that the question we're talking about is referee involved about the Chiefs. But the only person I've heard talk about anything to do with officiating or calls is Joey Bosa. Bosa was asked
Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always do that. I always confuse which one is which.
It's brother. It's okay. They're both in the pros.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they're both in California too. That makes it even harder.
True.
But yeah, he was asked about what's your impression after watching some film on the offensive tackles, especially Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor of the Chiefs, and his response was they hold a lot. So he's already putting it out in the ether. It's kind of like the Micah Parsons thing. Remember before the first game against the Packers, he talked about he never gets any holding calls for himself. There's always holding and they never call it. And then the 2 penalties in the first quarter and a half were called holding on Green Bay against Micah Parsons. So I don't know if that's part of what Bose is doing, is just trying to put it out in the ether and let it be known.
I think so.
But I mean, there's also the part that the same lead official of the Super Bowl 4 years ago in this matchup is Bill Vinovich again this time. Now this will be, I think, his 3rd Super Bowl as the lead ref. So it's not, again, he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. But this is the same guy the Rams talked about. They always lost when he was the lead official when they were playing New Orleans, down in New Orleans for the NFC title game. And then we know how that game ended with them winning, even though there was a controversial no pass interference call against the Rams in their favor.
Not even controversial, dude.
Okay,
that shit was so.
I watched on YouTube. I did put quotations in the air. It is controversial, but it was very obviously not called.
Yes.
So, and then you look at the Super Bowl 4 years ago. They said that there was, I think, 5 penalties against the Niners and 4 against the Chiefs, and the only one that was really talked about and was a big deal was there was an offensive pass interference on Kittle that ended up negating a 42-yard gain for the Niners. But other than that, was pretty even. I think it was 52 yards to 28 yards or 30 yards. It's nothing crazy. No, again, 9 total penalties, 5 and 4 split, not 8 and 1 or anything like that. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes this is just a storyline that people like to create to keep us talking about it, but it worked because here we are. We're talking about it.
Here we are. Yeah, no, and I agree with you with the whole Joey / Nick Bosa comment. I'm just making fun of you, bro.
I know.
I say freaking San Diego Chargers all the time. So it's all good.
Well, I think you're definitely not the only one that does that. Half of California, I think, still does that.
That's where they are, man. That's where they're from. They're just borrowing this
California Chargers.
Well, there you go. Like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yeah, back when they were the California Angels, it would just be better to go back to that.
100%. California Angels is kind of a dope ass name, to be honest with you.
Sick logo too.
Facts. Okay. Anyway, sticking back to football. I see your points, and I do think that is exactly what Nick Bosa was doing in kind of lubing up. That sounds weird, but lubing up the refs, greasing up the refs. There, that sounds better. Greasing up the refs to not lubing. Whoa, bro. All right, greasing up the refs to kind of just pay attention to the offensive line a little bit more. Dude, don't get me wrong, bro. Nick Bosa is a monster. Sometimes the only way to stop that fool is to hold him. So I get why he's kind of throwing it out there in the ether, like you stated. But let me break down something that I found. Actually, it was more like Nick Wright, but I watched it. I thought he completely broke this down so well. So I want to give all credit to First Things First staff and Nick Wright for all this information. But let me kind of reiterate what he kind of went over here. Since Patrick Mahomes, and we're going to have a couple graphics up on the screen for you as I go through. For those of you listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, feel free to check us out on YouTube so you can kind of see some of these graphics that we're showing. That way it's a little bit easier to digest. Now, granted, if you're on the go and stuff like that, feel free to keep listening to us, and we'll take some listeners wherever we get it. But check out the YouTube page. If you get a chance, you can kind of see some of the videos and things that we have here. So up on the screen, you'll see here, since Patrick Mahomes became the starter, which was 2018, the Chiefs have basically been damn near the bottom of the barrel, if not less than half, as far as a penalty differential ranks. For those listening, in 2018, they were 31st out of 32 teams, 1927, 2020, 27, 2021, 17th. That's their best, the highest they've been. And granted, they lost the Super Bowl that year, or not the Super Bowl. They lost in the AFC Championship game to the Bengals. So that wasn't even one of their years where they actually won a Super Bowl, which was their best differential. Last year it was 25th, and this year again they ranked second to last at 31 as far as penalty differential. So for all those people out here, oh, they get all the calls. No, this literally says that everybody they play gets all the calls, and they get nothing. Not nothing, because they are penalized a lot, like Corey was saying, that the offensive line does hold a little bit. But some of the people also, and this is what Nick Wright brings up, we'll see playoff instances. There's a play against in the AFC title game where Mahomes is running out of bounds, and after he steps out of bounds, completely afterwards, he's pushed by a Bengals player. This was the 2022 last year AFC title game, and there was not a roughing the passer because he wasn't passing, but unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, or a personal foul called on Mahomes for a 15-yard advancement. So people are like, oh, see, why did you give it? You're just giving him 15 yards. No, that's a call for every single person in the NFL all the time. If you're out of bounds and you get pushed, that's you already gave up, Yeah. And the second one was basically in the Super Bowl, and everybody saw that one. There was a penalty or a pass interference call, or a holding call, basically, on, I forgot the gentleman's name on the Eagles, but after the game, he admitted that he held him. So there was a flag for that one, but he admitted it. So it's just, it's crazy, the narrative that goes around, and the fact that Bosa's buying into it. To me, he's too good of a player to even, in my opinion, mention it. You know what I mean? Today, what's his name? Kelsey was interviewed, or maybe it wasn't today, maybe it was the other day. He was interviewed kind of asking, about George Kittle. He says he's the king of tight end university, and he's the best tight end in the league. You could simply just say something nice about the other team, even if it's a lie, right? I mean, arguably Kelsey's the best tight end ever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, the fact that he's kind of dabbling in this kind of weird thing was like, well, they kind of hold a lot. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird. So, and the last thing, when you look a little bit further into this specific season for the Chiefs, and here's another graphic for you guys. When they play the Chiefs, opponents actually have the second fewest penalties called against them in the league, and the third fewest yards allotted to those penalties. So when they play the Chiefs, everybody's or when they play other games, everyone's probably mix and match in average. But against the Chiefs, the refs swallow their whistle more more for the opposing teams. So it's just like everybody plays perfect against the Chiefs. And they play the Raiders twice, man. So, man, that's one of the most penalized teams in the league. And for them to be called second and third fewest penalties against your opponents, the numbers don't lie. And thank you again to Nick Wright and the First Things First crew for putting that together, because it's just basically the numbers don't agree. I mean, what do you think?
No, your numbers make all the sense. And at first, before you were even going to say these numbers, and you were saying that Nick Wright was involved, I was like, well, he's a Chiefs fan, so everything's going to go, in his opinion, is going to go that way. But when the numbers are presented to you, it doesn't matter what team you're a fan of at that point. It's just the actual factual numbers right there for you to look at. And like it says, it shows against the narrative that everyone's trying to portray.
Yeah, agreed. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that The NFL isn't rigged because I kind of think it is. I'm not saying that the refs don't do stuff, but statistics show that it's not necessarily for the Chiefs. The last point, actually, now that I think about it, he also says in the 12 playoff games that have been played this year, there's only been 2 instances where a penalty has negated a touchdown. Both instances were against the Chiefs. So they had a touchdown taken off because of a penalty that they had in the playoffs this year alone. So the fact that they are just pushing the Chiefs to the Super Bowl is not the correct narrative. Well, when you actually, like you said, look at the numbers.
So. Yeah, and also don't forget there was a touchdown negated for them when they were in a game against Buffalo earlier this year because the guy had his foot on the line that they called, and everybody lost their mind on that too. So.
And that was an epic play, bro. Kelsey throwing it backwards in the middle of the freaking field to go for and if they really wanted the Chiefs to win and get the edge, they would have not called it. But his toe was over the line. Is he playing in this? Speaking of Kadarius Toney,
I haven't heard anything yet. We'll have to check on that before Thursday's episode before we do our breakdown.
Yeah, because they held him out for personal reasons and an injury in the AFC title game, and he went on live saying he wasn't even hurt. So,
yeah, it was that I think his wife had a baby is what the actual personal reason what it ended up being. But yeah, he said, "I'm not hurt. I'm nothing wrong with me." I mean, it was a little more derogatory and colorful, I guess, the way he said it in his little video than we just did. But yeah, he said it's not an injury related issue. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see between now and. I guess they would have to do the injury report by Friday or so before the game, just so everybody's on the same page. I don't know what their deadlines are in the NFL compared to other sports.
Yeah, true. Especially for the Super Bowl. I mean, gamesmanship for the very last game should come down to the wire, but we'll give you an update if we have some on Thursday, so make sure you tune in for that. Those are some of the biggest questions that we have coming into the Super Bowl. Now we're going to kind of break down what we feel or who we feel has the edge in some of the extremely important categories. We're going to start with one that I think is arguably the most important. You can see the big difference in the way that Bill Belichick handled Sean McVay in that one Super Bowl for the Patriots-Rams. Because Sean McVay is an excellent coach, but Bill Belichick had the edge the entire time. 13-3 final, which kind of shows it. So for this matchup, and we do have some graphics on the screen, again, for the YouTube audience, Corey, who do you feel has the coaching edge in the Super Bowl this year?
I think hands down it's Andy Reid and them. They just did this last year. The Chiefs have been in 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, with this one included. Reid has been to 5 Super Bowls as a coach in his career at this point as well. So everything as far as experience goes on to that side. Not that Shanahan and them don't have one. Obviously, the Niners have been to 1 Super Bowl 4 years ago, so they have some experience of this, but it's a defensive coordinator that's different this time. Spagnuolo's been there the last couple of years with the Chiefs, and they obviously have a system that's working on that side of the ball, especially this season. But yeah, it all comes down, and not only did Shanahan not win the Super Bowl the last time with the Niners, as we talked about, which today is the anniversary actually, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons when they lost the Super Bowl after having a 28-3 lead over the Patriots at the time. So
Tom.
Again, experience there and having 2 different trips there as a coordinator and a head coach and ultimately losing both. The monkey on the back is all about Shanahan and if he can get over the hump and get that big win. So I think the pressure's on him and the edge goes to Andy Reid and the Chiefs. I would assume you're thinking the same thing. I mean, it's hard to argue the Chiefs and Andy Reid at this point.
Yeah, no, basically you kind of said it all. I couldn't agree more. But to be honest with you, I don't think it's like too far separated. Like, in my opinion, I think the NFC title game, and this is no shot at Dan Campbell. I think Shanahan had a big edge. I think I get that they went down big, but I think Kyle Shanahan is a more polished coach. Now, granted, Dan Campbell can grow into it. He's only been a head coach for 3 years. I got to give him a freaking break, right? And he's done excellent with that Lions team. So this isn't really a knock at him. But I think the separation was a little bit greater than what I think it is here. But I kind of agree with you still that it's Andy Reid. That guy is just, he knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly how to get the troops in order, I guess you could say. And adding Spagnuolo as the DC, like you've said, the Chiefs players have called him that the guru and that genius. I do think the Chiefs had the edge, but I don't think it's too big. Because like you said, dude, Shanahan's been there too. And he is an amazing offensive coordinator, I guess you could say. I know that's technically not his role. He's the head coach, but he's basically the offensive guy on that team. So, but I'm still, like you said, giving it to Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Hard to argue against Andy Reid, but yeah, I'm with you. It's not a dramatic like here to here kind of 10-5. It's a 9-8 kind of difference. It's a small differential, but again, I think just the fact that they've been there, they've done that, they're here for the second straight year. They're obviously last time they went to the Super Bowl, they won against the Niners, and then went back the next year and lost to the Bucs. So they've been to back-to-back Super Bowls. They know what it takes to kind of do it 2 years in a row and have an opportunity. I just think this year with the Chiefs, depending on that offensive line, as you talked about with health by Sunday, I just think it's so hard to go against the Chiefs at this point in any way.
Well, Vegas is against them. So
yeah, which
they're
is
the underdog.
They just don't like him because the Raiders. I'm sure that's got to be part of it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Imagine if that's how they did it. Like, oh no, the Raiders are here. We don't like them. They're the underdog. Screw them. Screw them. That'd be pretty hilarious. It's funny though because real quickly, side note, I'm sure you saw that post and it got kind of some traction where the Niners posted something. Basically, they're kind of like Super Bowl hype tape, and they quoted it basically saying, "Against all odds." Well,
oh my gosh,
the odds are that you've been favored in every single game you've played this year, including now the Super Bowl. So I don't know what odds they're talking about.
Yeah,
but hey, whatever. I guess they need to fuel the fire. So speaking of odds and how the Niners are favored, I just thought that was funny. We made it here against all odds. I know we were favored in every single game we played, and we were at home for the entire playoffs except the Super Bowl. But we just barely snuck by the thing. Like, get the fuck out! What are you talking about? So whatever. Got to fire them up, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, bulletin board material, whatever works for you.
Their own bulletin board material.
Hey, again, whatever works for you, man. If no one's giving you some, you got to create your own. Remember Michael Jordan? In the documentary, that it was always, I took that personal. It's always about whatever makes you get to that point so you can use it in a positive way.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's true. Jordan's something else, bro. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
We're going to move on to the next matchup that we got here. This is one that we've been kind of battling back and forth with, and we mentioned several times, both of us here. We're going to go with defense, man. This one is getting it close here. Who do you feel has the edge on the defensive side of the ball?
Oh, man, this one was hard because the Chiefs' defense obviously has been very good all year, and the Niners as well. But the Niners have more of the big names and the big contracts on their side. It's all about, if you look at it on paper, you would think just based on the names of what they have on that side of the ball, the Niners are
stacked
for sure the best one. But the Chiefs did go into Baltimore and held Lamar, and who's possibly going to be the MVP, they say at this point, and that offense to 10 points, which was way below their season average, and was able to win on the road again. They haven't won on the road before with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and they won 2 of them in Buffalo, which again was able to shut down Josh Allen in the second half. And even though the Dolphins didn't do great against good teams this year, and it was negative 20 degrees basically on the field when they played them in the wild card round, they did also shut down the high offense of the Dolphins too, and keep them, I think, under 15 or 17 points, whatever it was. So the Chiefs defense, 7 total. There you go, even better. So the Chiefs defense for me, at this point, I can't go against them because every time they've been tested, they've completely passed. Now the Niners are very good, but they also struggled last week against the Lions and were down big early, and they were lucky they were able to win that game. They also did not look great against Jordan Love, who, as you mentioned, isn't technically a rookie because he's been on the bench for a few years. But in his full first year as the starting quarterback, he was able to go out there and have a great game until the end when he was forcing it and trying to get a game-winning drive there at the end. But I think the Chiefs in the long run, just with Spagnuolo and them and their experience as a group from winning last year to now, they've only gotten better. And it's hard. Again, I can't go against the Chiefs at this point. I'm not even a Chiefs fan. It's just hard to go against them.
Yeah, I'm somewhat a Chiefs fan, but kind of like a lot of people know here, I'm a dynasty fan and I'm a player fan. I was a huge fan of Tom Brady, and I really do like Patrick Mahomes. And I still, have to put the edge because Tom Brady's technically never lost in the postseason to Patrick Mahomes. But hey, that's neither here nor there. I'm with you though. I do think it's the Chiefs. Now, I do think the Niners' overall season was good. Like I talked about previously, they graded as a 92.1 early in the season or throughout the regular season. But the Chiefs have been dominant this postseason. They are, of course, without one of the most important pass rushers, Charles Omenihu, who tore his ACL against the Ravens.
Yeah, that hurts.
But like you said, still held the Ravens to only 10 points in Baltimore at home, right? Which is basically unheard of. They're allowing only 10 points total, or they have allowed only 10 points total in all 3 of their playoff games after halftime. 0 to the what's it called? 0 to the Dolphins. I think 7 to the Bills and 3 to the Ravens. That's it. That's all they've allowed in the entire 3 halves, basically.
Wow.
On top of that, a total of 19 points have been scored after halftime in the regular season games since December, which is 5 total games.
Whoa.
So all like 5 games, only 19 total points in the second half. So they are big. They better hope they don't get down huge, because it's going to have to put the ball. What am I saying? They better hope they're not down huge, because it's going to have to make Patrick Mahomes, okay, arguably the greatest quarterback. Okay, I forgot I said that part, but it's still. If I guess what I'm saying is they still have a chance, because they're a huge second half team. Spagnuolo knows exactly what changes to make, and they rank at the top of the list in overall defense and coverage in this postseason. So I think that they're going to. I think they do take the edge, even though, like you said, the Niners have all the names, and they're very talented too. If and when they want to show up, bro, they can be dominant as well. But I'm gonna, like you said, give the edge to the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, and you mentioned the halftime thing about, and I didn't realize 19 points since December. That's insane at that part. But
not including the playoffs, that's separate. But
yeah, but still,
in the regular season, yeah.
If you look at it though, like obviously Spagnuolo's got 2 weeks to prepare for this offense that they're going to go up against, compared to a week they've had, and in the playoffs especially, they had maybe one extra day for the Baltimore game because they played on Saturday to Sunday, but still having an extra whole week. And then, as you noticed, they make really good adjustments at halftime on top of it. And this halftime, because it's a Super Bowl and there's a halftime show, is even longer than a typical one. So
True.
You have more time to even make better adjustments if you're Spagnuolo on the defense.
That's a really good point. I forgot about the lengthy halftime show, which a lot of times people, get nervous about it, in the sense of like, that's not what the players are used to. They're used to this amount of time, and they get back on the field. I really don't think that's going to be a problem for either of these teams, more specifically the Chiefs, because they've been here, done that. Just last year, they were in the Super Bowl and snuck out a win. And the Niners have professionals who have been there. Kittle talked about it, and his loss to the Chiefs. He will be back here, and I'll be back with a vengeance. So, I don't think it'll be too big, but it definitely, to your point, gives Spagnuolo and the coordinators a lot more time to, figure out what adjustments they need, if any.
Yeah, and one of those adjustments at halftime, depending on how the first half goes, will be whether they can stop Christian McCaffrey or not in the run game. So when it comes to the run game as a whole, which side are you going on, or who do you think has the advantage going into this game?
I think we might disagree here, but I have basically 3 words: Christian fucking McCaffrey. Okay, there's nothing really more I need to say personally. The Niners rank 2nd throughout the regular season in rushing, and 4th this postseason. I do like Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think they have another running back, the 3rd string guy. He also gets some touches here and there. But the main man, bro, the thing that makes the Niners offense run is Christian McCaffrey. He's basically kind of lined up for Offensive Player of the Year, was literally in talks for MVP. That's how good of a year he was having. So I'm going to give the edge to this one in the Niners. It's for their first edge, in my opinion, but it's a huge edge, bro. So I think Christian McCaffrey is just lightning in a bottle. If he doesn't even really need open field. He's fast, so you don't want to see him in the open field, but he is shifty. He can break tackles, slip tackles. Chiefs are going to have to be on top of the game. I'm giving the edge to Christian McCaffrey. What you thinking?
Well, I couldn't agree more with you that Christian McCaffrey is amazing. That for sure is no argument there. But we didn't ask who the best running back in this game is. We asked who's going to have the better running game as a team. And I think the fact that Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco have been there before last year with this team, and again, if that offensive line is healthy, they know their system, they know what they're doing, and they have. The Niners, even though their defense is good, they've given up a lot of running yards. The Lions made it look really easy, especially in that first half. They were running all over them and making it look like they didn't know what they were doing. So I think if the Chiefs can come out and do that, then ultimately the running game as a whole, I think, is better for the Chiefs when it comes down to it. Again, nothing to do with Christian McCaffrey as an individual. You're right. He was probably going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He was in the MVP talks at some point. But you didn't ask me who the best running back is or who the individual player was better at that position. So I think as a whole in a running game, I'm going with the Chiefs.
Let me ask you a caveat question to that. Is that because of the Chiefs, or is that because of the lack of defense for the Niners? Like you mentioned, giving it up huge to Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs, or is it a combination, you think?
It could be a combination, but it could just be the Niners defense, because the fact that they had the extra week to prepare for the Packers, since they were the number 1 seed and had a bye week in the first round, and still gave up all that to Jones after you literally watched him do that exact thing to the Cowboys. Kind of makes me a little worried about that defensive line a little bit when it comes to stopping the run.
Yeah, no, great point. Great point. I like that. All right, so we're a little bit different. We're a little bit different there, but that's good. That's good. It's just hard for me to not like you. I know you made it very clear. I didn't ask you who is the better running back. I asked you about who thinks have the better running game. So okay, cool. This one, I think it'd be hard for us to differ.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a very important position, and a lot of people have him up there. We're going to move on to quarterback. Corey, who do you think has the edge at quarterback?
Yeah, this
It
one's
seems
easy.
laughable, but let's be real. Yeah.
It's Patrick Mahomes. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, Purdy's good. Obviously, has gotten them here, and with that comeback win against the Lions, he had a big part in that, especially with his feet and kind of making some runs on big plays that they needed. But again, when it comes down to it, Mahomes is the man. He is legit the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Has been for the last few years. That's why the Chiefs are in their 4th Super Bowl in 5 years, like we've mentioned before. It's just hard to go against that guy, and just I mean, okay, you mentioned he lost to Brady twice in the playoffs. The other playoff loss he has is to Joe Burrow when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl and they beat them in the AFC title game in Kansas City. So again, it's just hard to go against Mahomes at this point. He is the best quarterback. There's no doubt about it. He's the best quarterback in this game. And we're going with a guy who was drafted in the first round to Mr. Irrelevant, now being a Super Bowl starting quarterback. Two completely different expectations, and Pat has completely lived up to them and continues to do so and surpass them in my mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. And this is none of us are taking shots at Brock Purdy. He's in the
No.
NFL and he's a starting quarterback on the Super Bowl bound Niners. So this is not saying like, oh, Purdy sucks, right?
No, definitely
But
not.
until proven otherwise, Mahomes is arguably he's for sure the best in the league now and arguably the greatest all time, in my opinion, behind Brady, of course. Purdy does, have the opportunity to prove a lot of doubters, myself included, wrong with a really strong showing in the Super Bowl. But to me, it's what you do with what you have and what you could possibly do without it. Nick Wright kind of takes is that take as well. I actually kind of want your opinion on that because there's a lot of people that talk about like, well, you don't get to pick your situation. Granted, yeah, you're right. It sucks that Bryce Young is in Carolina with nobody to play with. It sucks that Justin Fields is in Chicago with no good offensive coordinator and nobody besides DJ Moore this past year. But if you think about it as well, now granted he got Jamar Chase, so that's a little bit different. And they got T. Higgins, so they have some stuff. But to me, it's also what could you possibly do outside of this situation? In my opinion, Brady proved it both ways. He had an okay weapon. No, I'm sorry, a great weapon in Gronk pretty much most of the time in New England. Randy Moss every once in a while, but they lost that Super Bowl. But other than that, he had pretty much no weapons and or just small slot receivers like the Wes Welkers, the Danny Amendolas, and the Julian Edelmans, right? Yep. And then he goes to Tampa because he's that system quarterback over in New England. Then he goes to Tampa with a plethora of freaking weapons, including Gronk again, and he wins it there. So curious, what do you think? Because in my opinion, the only comparison that we could do is Jimmy Garoppolo, and he had freaking Devontae Adams. But everyone was talking up Jimmy Garoppolo as the next guy, the next best thing. The Niners, bro, they're unstoppable. As long as Jimmy's G is healthy, they are unstoppable. And he's really good. And then he goes to the Niners, or he goes to the Raiders, and everyone's like, man, Jimmy G sucks, bro. Get rid of this guy. Do you think it's more now? Granted, again, you have to make the plays, but is it the plethora and wealth of talent and the game planning of Shanahan? Do you think Purdy could do this elsewhere? Maybe with just Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, for example.
Well, my first thought is Shanahan obviously was the coordinator in Washington before he got this job. And, they did a lot with Kirk Cousins, but Cousins seemed to be really good as well when he went to Minnesota with a completely different organization and coaching staff. So I think it could be a little bit of both, but it ultimately is, I think the quarterback has to be the one to be able to make the plays in the first place. Like if you can't make the throws and get it in the spots it needs to be, like, Jimmy G's famous now too for that last Super Bowl the Niners win where he had that one deep pass late in the fourth quarter that could have ultimately maybe given them a chance to seal the game or even have a chance to win it. And he overthrew the guy and had no chance of getting him. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I think ultimately it comes down to the quarterback. You have to be able to make the plays, especially when they're needed, and they're needed in big crunch moments. And the Super Bowl is going to be an entire just crunch game. Like you have to be on the top of your game in order to have a chance to win.
You mean an overthrow like the one Brock Purdy did to Brandon Ayuk?
That got tipped up in the air and then
that got lucky again. Did he complete it? Sure, but that was an overthrow. That was a missed pass, right? Yep. So I'm just curious to see. Again, I'm not even trying to throw shade, but we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, basically we're both riding with Patrick Mahomes. This is probably the easiest question of the comparisons here. So it's Patty Mahomes for sure.
Couldn't agree more.
We got the last one here. Another who's got it better here. This one is kind of one-sided in my opinion as well, but I want you to start. overall weapons, man. Who's got the weapons that can get something done in the Super Bowl here? Niners or Chiefs?
It's Niners. I mean, again, just the offense alone. You look at Ayuk and Debo and Christian and Kittle. I mean, Purdy's got all kinds of weapons and fancy, shiny toys to play with in a sense. And their defense, it's Bosa and Armstead and Chase Young and Greenlaw, and it's just so much on paper. But it all comes down to, again, on paper with looking at the names and the way the salary cap is situated. Which I don't even know how the Niners keep getting these guys and aren't over the cap yet. But that'll be hopefully something that comes to bite them at some point, and you have to pay the bill. But yeah, it's on paper, it's them. I mean, Pat Mahomes, we talked about Kadarius Toney. He's a rookie, not very good. I've had issues all year with him the big play being offsides in the Buffalo game in the regular season. I don't even know. Rashee Rice has been good lately, but I didn't even know who he was when the season started. Last year when they won, they had Juju Smith-Schuster, and he was only there for a year. They just keep kind of like Brady back in the day, like you mentioned, just keep plugging in guys and see if it works, and it tends to work because Mahomes is so good. And then they kind of move on to the next piece and see what that guy can do. So when it's overall weapons on paper and you're just looking at names and who's got the best players, it's the Niners hand down. Like, no, I can understand why they're the favorites because of that, but that's why they play the games at the end of the day, like my dad always tells me.
That's true. That's like actually a good comparison too. The Patrick Mahomes to just plugging in who can work. They both, comparing it to Brady. I mean, they did both have a very consistent one. They're tight end, right? And
Yes.
Kelsey and Gronk respectively. So, but to me, that's basically it, right? The weapons in San Francisco, like you stated, are basically top notch, some of the best in the league. Mahomes used to have that, right, with Tyreek, but he's already gone and won a Super Bowl without him. And taking this team, obviously, to the Super Bowl with basically just Kelsey. Again, like you mentioned, Rashee Rice is up and coming, but he's still a rookie. The Niners have Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Juwan Johnson, who made that crazy one-handed catch. He may not be known, but that fool's talented as heck. And George Kittle as well. Really shows their wealth of talent on offense. But it doesn't just stop there. You mentioned Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Javarius Ward, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Huge standouts on defense as well. The Niners have so much talent. In fact, this year they have 9 Pro Bowlers and 5 All-Pro players, most in the league for both of them. And they include 2 of the only 3 unanimous All-Pro selections in McCaffrey and Warner. The other one was Tyreek Hill. So they are loaded. 5 All-Pros, 9 Pro Bowlers. Now, obviously, some of those are the same people. It's not like they have a total of 14. But All-Pro is the top of the top. I mean, you can say what you want about Pro Bowl. I'm not trying to put the Pro Bowl down, but that's a lot of fan voting and stuff like that. All-Pro is really where it's at, and they have the most in the league on their roster. So I agree with you. I think we're both on the same page here. Niners have all of it on paper, and it really comes down to whether or not they can put it all together, and if, like we mentioned in the last segment, if that quarterback can hold strong.
Yep, it's again, I think the X factor is Purdy. If he has a good game and the Niners are doing everything they need to do, they'll have a chance. If Purdy's turning the ball over and the Chiefs are winning the battle of field position at that point, you're giving Mahomes less field to work with and have to score on you. That's not a good idea.
No, he doesn't need a short field at all. Starting from the 25 is probably good enough for him. So don't give it to him. Don't give it to him. If you guys have any comments about it, let us know down below who you think the X factors are. Play along with us. Let us know who you think takes the edge in most of the categories that we talked about. We'd love to kind of have a chat with you. Moving on, though. Super Bowl will take care of itself. We're going to cover again more on Thursday. We're going to take our picks, maybe throw some scores out there again. We're hoping to also have a parlay noted by then. It's not going to be something crazy, but it'd be nice to kind of have something fun to add to the Super Bowl as well. It's just we don't do it very much because obviously we did kind of bad towards the beginning of the season. So, yeah.
5 on it, man. We were so bad.
Yeah, really bad. But we'll see if we could do, and let's have some fun with the Super Bowl one. More to come on Thursday. We're going to stay in the NFL, though. There's been a couple notes and a couple changes in the NFL. This one just broke right before we started. Corey, can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so I was waiting for you to get on and just kind of looking at if any other last-minute things kind of came up. And, one did pop up, the NFL, which we knew they were going to have a game in Brazil this year as part of, like, the international games. They have the 3 in London every year, and they're adding one to now South
Or the
America.
one in Germany.
Yeah, last year, and now going to Brazil for the first time. But not only that, we found out the Eagles will be the home team hosting it. We don't know their opponent yet. They said that'll be announced later when the schedule is probably announced. But the fact that they're going there, it's going to be week 1, so the Eagles won't have to do it in the middle of the season traveling down there. But
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I agree. Because I wondered how they were going to work that in. Because I mean, not that London and the other ones aren't far, but Brazil, that's a long trek to do in the middle of the season. But they're going to send Philly down there to start week 1 off, and not only that, it'll be week 1. It'll be the Friday, so we'll have Thursday night kickoff like we typically do with the defending champ, whoever it ends up being, against somebody, and then Friday we will have the Eagles down in Brazil hosting another game, and just the NFL taking over more days of the week.
I was just about to say, bro. I was just about to say that, dude. NFL just loves taking up any type of viewing they can get, man. The only good thing that I'm thinking about, though, about it being in Brazil is at least the time zone change isn't going to be that different. I'm pretty sure they're on a very similar time zone because they're obviously below us in South America. I don't know if it's exactly the same as East Coast time because that's.
But it will definitely be a lot closer than over in London and Germany, like you said.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I'm curious. They're probably not going to play a division rival, I'm assuming, because you don't want to take away division revenue like you were talking about earlier, especially not the Cowboys. You're not having the Cowboys be down there. Philly's going to be like, excuse me, that's like one of our biggest games of the year. No, that's definitely being here. So it'd be interesting to see who they send down there because the Eagles are, a big franchise. It's a lot of talent just in the Super Bowl last year. So it'd be interesting to see if they throw a dud down there, like we were talking about earlier, maybe the Carolina Panthers, or if they maybe kind of send somebody that's a little bit bigger name. They do play the Jaguars this year, so and it's supposed to be a home game, so maybe they just send the foreign Jaguars down there too.
Jags are definitely taking over the international market, or trying to, for sure. The other thing I'm wondering too, since it's on a Friday, will be who's going to be having the game on TV. Does it go to Amazon because they had Black Friday this year when they had the game, or are we on a non-streaming service and going to a regular channel? Since, like you said, the time zone won't be as crazy of a differential, because typically when it's in London and stuff, it's on at like 6 a.m. our time here on the West Coast. True. But it's typically on either NFL Network, or actually I think typically most of them are on NFL Network. Maybe that's where NFL Network will step in and take over the Friday game. But it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with that as far as where it's going to be watched.
I hope not, because I don't have NFL Network. I'm hoping for basically anything else. Regular TV would be preferable, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Something else that happened, that's obviously the most famous thing that happens in between the championship games and the Super Bowl. I know you have a huge long sentence that you want to talk about with this with the Pro Bowl. What did you remember? What you said the other night that we were going to talk about?
Yeah, it took place. That's about all.
Perfect. All right, and that'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for the reporting, Corey.
Not even a game. They're playing flag football. They're doing weird games and long snapping like competitions, which I get. I'm assuming people watched it because they keep doing it. Otherwise, they would stop doing it. But yeah, I didn't see any of it. I just know that it took place and happened over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fun, but if I wanted to watch flag football, I'd go down to the Pee Wee fields and just kind of, have fun. Let's go to the middle school games and see what's going on. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, great thing. There was one highlight that we want to show. It's actually really not football related, but it is at the same time. Eli Manning, the character that he is, obviously he was the NFC coach for the flag football team, opposite of his brother Eli, he is that's what I'm saying. Peyton, obviously opposite of his brother Peyton. But he got into some other extracurricular activities during the week here. We've got a small snippet of, in my opinion, his best line. And as much as I'm a huge fan, this is a great line and a great shot, bro. Let's roll this film.
You ready? Go ahead, Ephesians. I'm Eli Manning. I'm nice. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Sight! I beat him twice! Hold me back!
What a diss. I mean, he ain't wrong, bro. He ain't wrong. That got him. I love the hold me back.
I was like, the hold me back twice is great, but the fact that he's even like coming out all with his glasses on, like he's gonna rap and it's gonna sound cool, and then he just kind of does this weird little thing, but it's hilarious. Psych! I beat him twice. Like, and everybody's so reacting. Oh, like it's the craziest diss of all time. It was hilarious.
I'm curious to see what Tom thinks of it, because he's normally a pretty good sport about this stuff. So it'd be funny to see his reaction. But as a Tom fan, someone who was definitely rooting for him in these losses to Eli, it is still funny. It's still funny. I'm glad that Eli can have some fun with that.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I even like watch any of the Manning cast, because I feel like Peyton and him are just so like goofy and know that it's not to be taken too seriously. And this is just another way of Eli showing you like, I played football as a quarterback, but I'm here. I'm still a human. I'm still just out here to have fun and have a good time. And another way to show it right there for sure.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like it. That's pretty much all the Pro Bowl coverage we have. You want to go, I don't know, watch YouTube videos of it. It's not that important to us. So we were focused on the Super Bowl, but we had to show that video. It was funny. It was so funny.
But now that we're going to move on to some other notes before we get out of the NFL, I think we talked about this last episode where, Cliff Kingsbury is going to the Raiders to be the offensive coordinator. And then literally within 24 hours or so after that, it comes out that is not happening anymore. So it seems like he's now going to go to Washington and take over the Commanders' OC job. But does that mean, or do you think that situation of Kingsbury now going to the Commanders, who have number 3 pick in the draft
3.
or so, like, does that change maybe where Caleb Williams' draft position is?
To me, it shouldn't, but yes, it could. In my opinion, if I'm the Bears, I'm without a doubt taking Caleb Williams. You settled for where you were in the draft for Justin Fields. I believe he was taken like 14th or 10th or something like that overall. Last year, you had the number 1 pick where you could have got someone like a CJ Stroud, or maybe you saw like a Bryce Young or something like that, and you passed on that. You traded down. Now, granted, it got you the number 1 pick in this year's draft, but why don't you go ahead and take advantage of it? From what everybody says, all the experts, this is a possibly, you got to prove it on the big stage, but possibly once in a generation type player. And as Nick Wright puts it, he has the style, very stylistically related to Patrick Mahomes. If you can get anything with the word Patrick and Mahomes in it, you freaking take it and you run. If I'm the Bears, I do not budge. I don't care that he says he doesn't want to play here. Go back to SC then. Have fun with that, because they get their ass beat against the Pac-12. How do you think that's going to fare in the Big Ten against, I don't know. I mean, I get that Jim Harbaugh's not there and a lot of people are drafted, or could be drafted. How do you think that's going to fare against Ohio States and the Michigans, the defending champs? Good luck. I don't see how he, plays the whole Eli or John Elway kind of thing where he says, well, then I'll just go do X, Y, and Z instead. The Bears to me, it's a nice historical franchise. And if I'm Chicago, I'm not budging. Do you think it makes a difference?
No, I mean, I'm with you. I think the Bears are going to take him regardless, but that doesn't necessarily mean once they take him, he's going to play for them. I mean, Eli said he didn't want to play for the Chargers. Don't draft me. They drafted him anyway. Now they ultimately traded him to New York for Phillip Rivers and swapping, but who knows what can happen. If once they have him in the building, he could change his mind and decide that it actually is better for him. But the fact that Kingsbury is in Washington just makes me kind of wonder, like, maybe that they really had a good connection to SC and he wants to play for him in the pros. But, you're a Cardinals fan. Kingsbury was your coach. It didn't win a lot of games or do a lot of positive things while he was there either, and got fired early in his contract. So maybe
he's still getting paid by the Cardinals.
Well, yeah, but maybe getting drafted and not dealing with Kingsbury is actually a positive for him and something new and a fresh eyes. And you brought up a good point earlier, because now that Kingsbury is going to Washington to be offensive coordinator, there is somebody open that could maybe be the Bears offensive coordinator if they want to take him.
Yeah, well, to add to that, Bears offensive coordinator looks to be moving forward with the Raiders. So it looks like the Raiders are going to be looking at Luke Getsy as their new offensive coordinator, since they missed out on Cliff Kingsbury. And before I get to your point, because I think it's a good one, or my point about your point about my whatever, the point. Chicago last year ranked 22nd of 32 teams in the overall offense. So adding Luke Getsy doesn't seem like a great idea. But, and you mentioned this, I think it was last episode, they ranked 7th overall in the run. And like you said previously, with Josh Jacobs there and the Antonio Pierce mindset of win in the trenches, that's what they want to do, is run. And he knows how to get the running game going. So that could be a good fit. But that now leaves Chicago open. And Chicago needs an offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy was just fired from Washington after only 1 season, sadly enough. But who's the comparison that Caleb has?
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes, who basically helped make Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes makes himself, and I'm not saying that he's nothing without Bieniemy, but that pairing was damn near unstoppable. This is arguably the worst, now granted, maybe not the weapons, but arguably the worst offense that Patrick Mahomes has led, and it's without Eric Bieniemy. So if there's anything that you would do, if I'm the freaking GM of the I almost said Cubs, if I'm the GM of the Bears, I am immediately calling Eric Bieniemy. Come, we'll pay you, and I need you to teach Caleb Williams because that's who we're taking. That's what I would be doing that's not a shot at Justin Fields. I'm not trying to be rude, but if Caleb really is that once in a generation player, you do not give him up, and why not pair him with an amazing offensive coordinator who can try to get another job showing that he can do something in another situation besides the shitty situation that was the Commanders last year.
Yeah, and I mean, you said the comparison of Caleb is Patrick, and Patrick played for Bieniemy and was great. So if you're Caleb, maybe if they do hire Bieniemy, that gives you more actual reason to want to go to Chicago because you have a trusted offensive coordinator that would probably be able to, build around your strengths and make you look really good, especially as a rookie coming into the NFL.
And to me, dude, you can build a legacy in Chicago, bro. Those Bears fans are so dead. The Bears, bro. They're so loyal, I feel like. You know what I mean? Even after all their bad seasons. And you and I were talking about it. Corey, name me their one franchise quarterback, the one that they're like, dang, yeah, we had that guy.
Yeah, that
They
doesn't
really don't
exist
have
in
one.
Chicago.
Exactly. So why not start something, especially in this quarterback-heavy league? Why not start something and just get him? Just get him, pair him with Bieniemy since he's been let go now. I just think it's a nice little match made in heaven, or it could be at least. Obviously, you have to see how it all pans out.
Ooh, you know what I also thought about? You know how we talked about before? There's rumors that if the Chiefs win, Andy Reid could retire. If he retires, maybe Bieniemy comes back and takes over the head coaching job for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Well, the Super Bowl's only a week away, and I feel like Reid would announce it. Not maybe, yeah, we won. I'm retiring. I'm not saying like that, but I feel like it would become pretty quick. You know what I mean? So Bieniemy could kind of hold out for the next couple of days, see what happens with Reid if he decides maybe go back to Kansas City. But if not, that Chicago gig, man, I think it could be good, especially with Caleb Williams, man. I think it could be pretty good.
I think it would make a lot of sense.
We'll stick with the Commanders. They're filling out their coaching staff like we talked about last time. Not Dan Campbell. What the heck is his freaking name again? Head coach now? Dan Quinn. Sorry, wrong. Dan Quinn, obviously hired as the head coach, has named now Cliff Kingsbury as the OC. He has also named Joe Witt Jr. as the defensive coordinator. He was a secondary coach and passing game coordinator for the Cowboys for the last 3 years, so he's basically just bringing his homie with him. Was also the defensive quality control coach for the Packers when they won the Super Bowl 45.
Yep, back when they beat the Steelers down in Jerry World. So not, again, defensive, it's a lower end of a role, but still you've been on a coaching staff that has won a Super Bowl. You know what is expected of you, although that didn't work out for the Cowboys, but that's not his fault, I guess. If your coach is, why can I not think of their coach's name?
McCarthy.
McCarthy, the guy
who was also the coach of the Packers when they won the Super Bowl.
Huh. That is a good point. It's probably why he got brought over to Dallas in the first place. I would think there's some continuity there. But yeah, now following Dan Quinn and getting his real first opportunity to be a coordinator of his own. And, the Commanders are very young and rebuilding, so a lot of less expectations there. And we'll give you more time to kind of get your system implemented and figure out who you guys want to go with. And hopefully they can solve their quarterback problem at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's what Cliff Kingsbury is definitely hoping for. I mean, with the third pick in the draft, even if you're not getting Caleb Williams, man, you're still getting there's plenty of talent. Now, none of us really know how it's going to pan out in the NFL, but there seems to be a lot of talent at the quarterback position in this draft, and it seems to be really deep. So at 3, you're going to have plenty of options.
Oh, man. So many things are going to happen in the draft. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, bro. I'm excited for it, to be honest with you.
Which, again, more coordinators being hired and everything at this point. That's basically all we're waiting for. Is after the Super Bowl's over, we'll get the last coordinators, if not between now and then, all of them filled. The Buccaneers went ahead and hired Liam Cohen as their new offensive coordinator, replacing Dave Canales, who took the head coaching job in Carolina. Good luck in Carolina.
Good luck.
The stuff that still needs to be sorted out with Cohen is still under, as far as contract. He was with the University of Kentucky as their offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, which this might go back to a lot of more college coaches leaving the game because of the NIL situation, which we mentioned our last episode. Again, if you want to go back and listen to any of those things, feel free to look us up, Our View from the Bench on YouTube, Apple or Spotify. But yeah, there's more guys just leaving the college game and going to the NFL. According to a report, the offensive styles are very similar, having both worked under former head Seahawks offensive coordinator and Rams passing game coordinator Shane Waldron. Canales worked under Waldron in Seattle, and Cohen worked under him in LA. So I think it all comes down to continuity and getting the guys that you trust that can implement the system or the way you want to play football and how you want to do things.
Especially since Baker had one of his best seasons in the pros under Dave Canales. It's nice for sure, especially for Baker to have that, which it sounds like they want to give him a somewhat long-term contract. He did pretty good for them, man. I mean, granted, he threw that pick to really seal it in triple cover. There was no reason for him to throw that interception. But regardless, I mean, besides that, he had a pretty decent year. I'd say the best of his career for sure. So I agree with you kind of keeping that same, I mean, it's not the same exact, but being under that tree, I guess you could say. Another thing that I read was actually that Cohen himself was an all-state quarterback and Gatorade Player of the Year in high school when he was in high school for Rhode Island. Granted, the smallest of the states, but hey, still there. He went on to play at UMass, actually set school records in completions, attempts, completion percentage, passing yards, and touchdowns thrown. So he knows the position by playing it as well, not just somebody who grew up as, with the coaching in mind and really knows the game itself. He played it. So he'll have some familiarity with that and be able to kind of relay that stuff to Baker as well. We'll see how that kind of pans out. But I think you and I both kind of agree. We kind of like Baker. I mean, we're not rooting against it. We're not to say rooting for him. I mean, it is what it is. But it's kind of cool to see Baker do well, especially since he just won Pro Bowl MVP, right?
Yeah, the Pro Bowl happened.
Yeah, go check out the Eli Manning rap video. That was the highlight of it. So yeah, we'll see how that kind of pans out. But everybody's kind of making moves, like we just talked about. Everybody's making moves, getting everything settled in. Another one that's happening right here is the Dolphins are hiring former assistant head coach Anthony Weaver from the Ravens as their new defensive coordinator. 43-year-old Weaver played 7 seasons in the NFL. He played with the Ravens and the Texans from 2002 to 2008 and moved into the NFL coaching world with a position as the Jets' assistant defensive line coach. He worked his way up with stops in Buffalo and Cleveland, also in Houston again. He was named the defensive coordinator with the Texans for the 2020 season. He later joined the Rams and has spent the last 3 years in Baltimore as the assistant head coach. So he's I don't know is a coordinator job, main coordinator job, a little bit better than an assistant head coach. Like, is he getting some more notability that way?
Yeah, well, probably, because I would assume assistant coach is more like you're running something, but in case, I don't know, he gets thrown out of the game or he can't be there, at least somebody can step in and kind of know what everybody else is supposed to be doing or how it's going. But the fact that he came from the Ravens, man, the Ravens coaching staff has got to be just completely depleted at this point.
Bro, they're in shreds right now, dude. Yeah. Well, I mean, a great organization, man. You're gonna lose those types of things. Who we talk about all the time, or at least we have the past few episodes. Sean McVay has been losing people every single freaking year he's been a head coach. So sometimes great organizations, they're gonna be taken from you. But yeah, dude, Baltimore's getting thin.
Man. Well, they'll figure it out. They have been so good and good at building. I mean, Harbaugh's been there, I don't know, what, 12, 15 years at this point coaching and was able to keep turning guys in, like you said, like McVay has been doing. So they'll figure out something. But it's just crazy to me that Baltimore, I mean, they lost their defensive coordinator. He went to go coach the Seahawks. That whole coaching staff is going to be completely new next year.
Yeah. Well, there should be like a bunch of players. So that's going to be the continuity, I guess, that they'll keep.
Yeah, very true.
This one is huge for you, man. I'm going to kind of start it off, but I want you to kind of break down a lot of this because I know that I believe when he first got hired, you wanted him to grab his dad. So Brian Callahan, your new head coach, has hired some extra people here. He's got Nick Holes as the offensive coordinator, and he's bringing his father, Bill Callahan, to coach the offensive line. Please get into this for me, man.
Well, Holes was with the Jags as the passing game coordinator, so that helps me a little bit because we're taking a piece away from a division opponent, so that's already a bonus right there. He did have a year at UNLV as the offensive coordinator, and man, these coaching staffs just keep getting younger. He's only 39, so just getting younger and younger. He was an assistant coach with the Raiders beginning in 2012 as an offensive assistant, and then kind of working his way up the ranks, and then eventually ending up as the assistant wide receivers coach in 2021. With Callahan, he's already said at his press conference when he got announced by the Titans that he'll be calling the plays. So Holes' basically job is going to be just help building the offense and scheming against opponents, which is what Callahan had been doing the last few years in Cincinnati with Zach Taylor calling the plays. So I think it's a great addition. Again, subtraction from a division opponent also helps. Now getting his dad Bill into is apparently, from what I keep reading and hearing, is actually the bigger deal of the two of them. Callahan's regarded as one of the best offensive line coaches in football. He's been with the Browns the last few years. And the fact that the Browns didn't have to let him go because he was under contract, but obviously it's a different situation when the son wants to hire the father. And the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, was asked about it in a press conference recently, and he talked about it. So we're going to play that clip for you and see what he says before we continue on.
Go work for Brian, not with Brian, to go work for Brian. I can't wait for Brian to boss him around. The dream of every kid is to boss their parents around. So happy for those guys. Again, I think organizationally, we realize that's a unique situation and did not want to stand in the way of that. And so excited for certainly Brian and Bill down there.
So, like I said,
that's pretty cool.
I think Stefanski knows that, like he said, it's not a typical situation, but something that he realizes and the organization as a whole realizes, it's the right thing to do. And he's excited for him to have an opportunity to go down in Tennessee. And I mean, I've talked about it before. The biggest issue for us last year
excited?
Has been the offensive line, and we can't run the ball.
Exactly.
So if he's a good offensive lineman coach, bring him in and let's see what can happen. And if his son's calling the offense, they're obviously going to work very close together and try to get that turned around. And if they believe in Will Levis, they're going to have to protect him to let him do his thing in the first place.
Yeah, which is something funny to think about. Man, we can't run the ball, but we have Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? So, maybe not anymore, but again, that's plenty of money. Yeah, possibly not, but that's plenty of money that you can spend elsewhere. So, I think that's pretty cool. You happy about this? I'm assuming so, because you talked about it almost immediately after he got hired.
Ryan, yeah, I was not excited when they fired Vrabel because I didn't think it was his problem or issue. But now that they've brought in Callahan and he's brought in some pieces that actually all make sense, and his dad has a really good record with the offensive line coaching, which is a big issue for them. I would assume with that 7th overall pick, if they think Levis is the guy, they will be taking an offensive lineman to continue to build, probably a left tackle. So yeah, I think it's all home run so far. But again, let's wait until we get to camp and see what they do in the offseason. They do have like $60-some million in cap space as well to build this team again. So we'll see what they do.
Nice. So those are some of the additions, mostly obviously to the coaching staff. There's not much player movement right now. Obviously, it's not technically the off season. That happens in the off season. But there are, exactly. There are some player subtractions that we're going to cover. Just two notable ones at least. The Lions' backup quarterback to Jared Goff was Teddy Bridgewater this past year. He has officially announced his retirement from the NFL, and he's actually immediately going to be the head coach at his high school alma mater, the Miami Northwestern High School. Miami as in Florida, not Miami as in Ohio. So I think that's pretty cool, man. I mean, staying busy. He obviously, as the quarterback, the game, right? Yep. I mean, and as much as Bridgewater was never an elite quarterback, I've never really regarded him as a bad one. So
true.
I think it's kind of cool. To me, he's like the perfect backup. You know what I mean? Throw him in there for 5 games if you need so. Wasn't he the backup? Where was he the backup? With the Saints, right? Wasn't he the backup with the Saints or something like that? And he went like 5-0. When
Breeze got hurt that year.
When Breeze got hurt, so. To me, he's like the perfect backup. He can get the job done, but maybe he's just not that franchise guy. But I think this is a cool opportunity that he gets to go back to his old high school. And dude, how cool is that to be on that team, bro? You get an NFL caliber quarterback coming in to teach you. I'd love to be the quarterback on that team, man. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, not only that, I kind of forgot until you mentioned he retired that he was still in the league. Because remember when he was in Minnesota, his knee exploded in that practice, and nobody ever thought he was going to play again. It was like a big old thing. So the fact that he, even as a backup, lasted as long as he did after that knee issue became a thing is awesome. And the fact that he like you said, he gets to go back home and coach and just have a good old time, and a lot less pressure coaching high school football than playing in the NFL.
Yeah, maybe, man. Parents are crazy.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, fans
Ohio,
are crazy.
That's one of those states that it's like
no. This is fine. This is Florida.
Oh, okay, then he'll be okay.
Miami, not Ohio. This is Florida football. Yeah. So, anyways, congrats on a nice career, Teddy, and good luck in your high school job. Man, that's awesome. Another person leaving. This one is somebody who actually was able to be around for some time, won a Super Bowl actually. Ryan Jensen, the Buccaneers center, is retiring after 9 seasons in the NFL. He actually hasn't played since 2022 after suffering a knee injury, but he really couldn't come back. So Bucs kept him on the roster last year, just in hopes that he might be able to return. But after all that, the injuries have basically got to him. He did make a post earlier. I think it was on Instagram or something. And let me just quote it for you here. With any chapter in the book of life, there is always an ending. The NFL chapter of my life is coming to a close. As this chapter closes and I reflect on every aspect of my career, it makes me proud. In the hard times and good, there's always something special to learn. Retiring from the game that you have loved from a very young age is always hard, but I'm excited for the next chapter and the new opportunities and challenges it will bring. So congratulations on Ryan Jensen, Super Bowl champion with the Bucs with Tom Brady, and 9-year career. Sounds. I mean, it's pretty hard, man. What's the average career in the NFL? Like 3 or less?
I think it's 3 or 3.5. Yeah, so 9, especially as a center, that's a lot of that's a lot of hits you're taking every single play. And I mean, I can't imagine. I always just feel bad about NFL linemen. Their hands just got to be completely just torn to shreds by the time they're done at the end of their career.
All their mangled fingers trying to freaking block.
Anthony Munoz is famous for his pinky just being like completely the other direction.
True. And what's his name? Booger McFarland has his freaking pinky all the way out too. I don't know if he's an offensive lineman, but I know he played in the trenches. That fool's hand is all jacked up too.
Yeah, that's a lot of beating up you take down there. But yeah, again, a 9-year career, Super Bowl champion, and honestly, I think part of the reason the Bucs didn't win that second one is because he got hurt in that season and was never able to really fully come back, and they just kind of didn't have the same continuity on that offensive line.
Yeah, he definitely did. He got hurt in Brady's final game, I believe it was, and I mean, I guess it was against the Cowboys, but Brady's final regular season game, I believe it was. So Cowboys kind of blew him out, but that was a surprise because we all know what the Cowboys do in the playoffs. Last NFL story here, kind of a weird one, but we thought we'd mention it because it happened, and obviously him being in the Super Bowl this week is notable. Yeah, really. Patrick Mahomes' father, Pat Mahomes Sr., was arrested on suspicion of DWI this week. Tell us more, man.
Well, first of all, I saw the story and I thought, man, that sucks. One, you have the money to get a driver or an Uber. Like these NFL athletes and family members that have, especially him, he played in the MLB for 11 years himself. We talked about last episode. So, but yeah, was arrested Saturday by the police in Tyler, Texas. Apparently this is his third DWI. This is not the first time this has happened.
Come on, man.
The last time he was, this one he was charged and released at $10,000 bond, was designated as driving while intoxicated for the third or more. He's had 2 previous, as we mentioned, one from 2012 and another from 2018. In 2018, he did plead guilty and served 40 days in jail, which he served on weekends over a span of about a year. So not necessarily 40 straight days, but I don't know. The third strike is never good. I don't know what the issue or what the penalty will end up being for him. But yeah, not good to have a distraction if you're Pat Mahomes and going into the most important game of the season as well.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, jeez. Like you said, dude, what? I don't know. I don't know how rich he is. I don't look at his bank account, but I've seen Patrick Mahomes' contract. Dude I see those commercials from my damn insurance. I'm giving him Patrick Mahomes money from freaking State Farm. Dude's making money, bro. You could definitely you could take a helicopter if you freaking had to, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, get limos, it doesn't have to be a freak Uber X, whatever the nicest one is, dude. Don't drive. But apparently he hasn't learned his lesson, spending 40 days in jail and still wants to do it. Now, granted, 6 years later, but they're basically 6 years apart. 2012, 2018. Oh, another one. Now 2018, 2024. Another one.
Look out for 2030.
Gosh, bro. Again, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, I don't know what's going on in his life. Maybe he's got something going on from his but he seems chill, like he's always like talking shit about after Patrick wins. He's always smoking his cigar, smoking on whatever quarterback he beat that day. But I don't know, maybe he's got other stuff going on. So yeah, hoping you can kind of sort that out, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there could be some other stuff going on that we don't know about because, a lot of people have issues that nobody talks about or mentions, and then something else comes up and kind of brings those things to light. So it could be one of those issues, which actually really, unfortunately, in a weird way, leads us into our next segment. It's the one we decided a couple weeks ago to do every episode or so, and this is another Corey's Mental Health Minute. So this kind of leads us into that topic as well. The quote that I'll put up on the screen for you guys today is, "Your mental health journey may be difficult, but it's worth it." If you need any help or want to get any more information on what you can do, if you need to ask questions or have things you need to work on, you can visit mentalhealthfirstaid.org. But yeah, Pat Mahomes Sr. might be one of those people that needs to look into it. And actually was able to sign another story over the weekend about this. We talked about last week how Patrick Laine decided to take some time off from the NHL to work on his mental health. There was a quote that I saw this story and I thought was really interesting because I didn't really... Again, you never know what everybody's going through because when you're in front of the cameras, especially if you're famous, you're always putting on an act in a sense. You're not necessarily being your true self to the world all the time. And Damian Lillard had a story come out over the weekend that I thought was kind of interesting and wanted to share. Obviously, the big story was he got traded last summer from Portland to Milwaukee. But again, it's not necessarily that's what grabbed the headline over the weekend. It's more of his personal struggles that are going on in his life. He was talking about, as much as he loves basketball and I love my job, I don't care about it more than I care about my kids. Of course, you carry it with you. People say when I hoop, I'm not thinking about anything, but I'm not 21. I got 3 kids. I'm tight with my family, and I'm going through a divorce. So obviously, there's been some things going on in his life that are affecting him. And, he's still playing well and is making all-star games and all that stuff. But again, at the end of the day, when he's not playing basketball, he's got much more important things and other issues that he's working through and trying to figure out. Another quote he had was, I did stuff that I wouldn't make me feel overwhelmed. It can be because we all got feelings. We all have stuff we really care about near and dear to our heart. I'm happy I'm a stable person and I've got a solid group of people around me. So, but the fact that he mentioned it and is putting it out there to let everyone know that, again, even though it seems like everything's great on the surface sometimes for people to look at you and just think, oh, they have life so easy.
NBA superstar.
Yeah, exactly. He's making millions of dollars. Everything's great. It's not always the case. And again, he has 3 kids. This is his college sweetheart, Kayla, that they are now going through a divorce. And apparently it's kind of getting a little messy. There's some harsh demands and public revelations coming out about their situation. So, just as an athlete, it's hard enough to do your job, but to have other issues outside now becoming part of the story is never good.
Couldn't agree more. Hope Dame is all right. Wish the best for him and his family, especially his kids. I am a child of a divorce. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. And I can say, at least from a kid's perspective, now granted, my dad wasn't a millionaire. But that also doesn't mean that it also means he wasn't in the public light. So I can say from a personal perspective, it's not easy as a kid. So I'm hoping that his kids or his ex and him make it, as easy as they can on him. Hopefully this harsh demands and all these negative things kind of go away after time. Obviously when things are fresh, maybe, things could be angry, but hopefully, they could co-parent to my parents did a pretty good job, but nothing is perfect. You know what I mean? So, just speaking as a person from a divorced family, like I said, when I was 2 years old, I didn't even know what was going on basically.
True.
It could be difficult for the kids for sure. So, good luck to Dame and the family for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, just hope for the best for them, and maybe now that it's out in the light, he'll feel a little bit better knowing it's not something he has to kind of keep a secret or hide from in a sense. It's more out in the public now.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That was a good one.
For sure.
We'll keep it with I guess we'll keep it with Dame and his keep it going to the NBA. We have the All-Star game coming up, dude. February 8th, dude. Thursday. Oh, the Thursday episode is the trade deadline. I freaking forgot, dude.
Yeah.
So we're obviously covering the Super Bowl and a trade deadline. Oh, yeah. What
the
else?
All-Star game will be the 18th for the NBA, not the 8th. That's the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying like the All-Star game is shortly after the trade deadline. That's
so
my
we'll
bad. I just
see
thought about
if,
it as the 8th.
If you got voted as an All-Star and you change conferences, we'll see how that goes. But I don't think anybody in the All-Star game is probably going to get traded at this point.
No, I don't think so. Unless LeBron, right, is getting. Yeah, no, he already said no. But they've announced obviously the coaching staffs. It's going to be the Bucks coaching staff. Doc Rivers will be the Eastern Conference coaches for the All-Star game in Indy on the 18th. They clinched the best record in the East with an eligible coach. Can you explain this to me? Why is Doc Rivers? Because I know it's supposed to be the best coach the best coach. Well, because to me, he's not the best coach, but the first place team's coach that is supposed to be doing the All-Star game. Can you explain to me why it's Doc instead of Mazzulla?
Yeah, I was kind of confused as well. I didn't understand why that the Celtics have the best record. It's not Joe Mazzulla myself. It turns out back in the 80s, because Pat Riley and the Lakers were basically the best team in the West every year from 82 to about 89, that Pat kept having to coach the All-Star game every single year. And the NBA decided that we don't want to have a repeat coach. We want to give other coaches an opportunity to represent their conference and be an All-Star coach. So what they decided is if you had coached the All-Star game the previous season, then if your team is also leading the conference this year, then they'll go to the next best record. So that's why it ended up being Milwaukee and Doc Rivers. But the Doc Rivers situation is even weirder because he just got hired in 4 games ago and is unfortunately 1-3.
1-3.
Doc Rivers at his best doing what he does.
Yep.
But it's just kind of interesting that he's only been coaching for a week and a half, and now he has to go represent the conference and the team in the All-Star game. So he was asked about it after a game recently when it was announced, and we just wanted to show his reaction so you could see what he had to say about it.
So how does it feel to earn the honor of coaching the Eastern Conference All-Stars?
That is ridiculously bad. It really is. Well, Adrian's going to get some money, that's for sure, and a ring. It's one of these quirky things. I think there should be a rule somehow that someone else does it other than me. Maybe I'll send my staff and I'll go on vacation.
Run that by Adam.
I'm going to run that by Adam Silver. I think Adam's a good man. I think he'll understand.
I mean, that's kind of cool. He's gonna what? I heard he's gonna give like his ring and the money that he gets to Adrian Griffin. So,
Well, and then I ended up
that's kind of
reading
cool.
too. Not only that, there's 2 coaches that are on the staff now that Doc brought in with him as well when he got hired. So he might not even send those guys. He'll probably just send the rest of the coaching staff from Milwaukee and let them represent it. But I like he mentioned in the clip, he's going to talk to Adam Silver about it. I'm sure because of the stipulations in this exact situation, the NBA will probably work with them and make it not become a bigger deal. Because otherwise, it will just be odd.
Yeah, agree. And Laffy, I know that he's not afraid of the Bucks anymore because of Doc Rivers. So we'll see how it goes with that whole thing. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the All-Star game, so I'll leave it at that. Good luck to the East. Go West, baby. Go West.
It's an all-star game. Nobody cares.
No, we care really a lot. It's going to be 194 to 187.
It's
So
just a
we need to
preview of
care.
another NBA game a week after that. They'll have 150 points apiece as well.
Bro, it's so annoying, dude. Ain't nobody play defense anymore.
You're not allowed
Ugh.
to. You're not allowed to touch anybody.
True. Somebody who's not going to be touching the court anytime soon
Man, this sucks.
is Joel Embiid, man. One of the best, obviously, reigning MVP in the league. One of the best centers, best players actually right now. Undergoing surgery to repair a left meniscus injury. It's more like some cleanup work. It's not necessarily like a full surgery, like it could be, season ending. It technically could, especially, big guys have a hard time coming back from injuries. But it's supposed to be more corrective. And, hopefully he can, in their opinion, hopefully come back. It will be an extended period of time, though, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. So I think the details they said was it's a displaced flap of the meniscus, which just sounds gross. And I don't even know what that exactly means, but it already just sounds bad. And I'm not even in the doctor world at all. But Woj said the door isn't closed on him returning for this season. But again, it'll just depend on how he reacts to it. He's already had issues going into this. I mean, there was that game in Denver last minute. They decided to pull him, and then he didn't play after that. And then when he did play Golden State, there was a couple times where he was just kind of running up and down the court and almost like lost his footing and kind of fell on his own when nobody was near him. So there was definitely an issue already there. And then the fact that Kuminga landed on this knee.
Oh, yeah, that one's bad.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. And, Embiid came into the league hurt and didn't play, trust the process. It took him like 2.5 years to even play regularly and be able to have an opportunity to be here. Now, again, the reigning MVP, Philly's in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference. Tyrese Maxey has started to really blossom and played really well together with him. But I don't know what's going to happen. They could drop in the standings really easily now. There's even rumors that Tobias Harris could be on the move at the deadline instead of keeping him because of this. Like, just a lot of things going on in Philly, and I just feel bad for Joel Embiid, to be honest.
I heard they want to trade him to the Pistons. Who the hell are they going to get back?
I don't know. They don't have anybody that would make sense to me either. It's more of
unless they're getting freaking what's his name, Cade Cunningham, which I doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I would think it's more of a salary thing at that point because the Phillies paying Embiid and him, they're going to have to pay Maxey in the offseason. So maybe unloading him now at this point will help them. But because the new tax aprons that come into effect next season, I don't know. But if you're Philly and you're number 3 in the East, I don't feel like you'd want to be getting rid of a guy who's averaging like 20 points a game for you. That's a big part of why you are where you are.
And he's not a liability, in my opinion, on defense. Is he a stopper? No, but he's not a liability at all. Like he's tall, he can move quickly, he goes for rebounds, and he could shoot, bro. Bro could score.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, it shouldn't just be a salary dump unless they're selling out on the season because they know that Embiid's not coming back. Then
that's
maybe
true.
So. I guess we'll have to see as the deadline goes closer, as it is this Thursday.
It's coming here so fast.
More injuries. This one unfortunately hits home. Los Angeles Lakers power forward Jared Vanderbilt has unfortunately been diagnosed with a right midfoot sprain. It's going to be reevaluated by team doctors in about 3 to 4 weeks, but it sounds like some reports are saying that there could be season ending as well. My question to you is, man, how does this change what the Lakers do at the deadline? I know they've been looking for another playmaker, but they just lost their best defender. What does this change?
Yeah, everything really. I feel like, they did beat Charlotte tonight, so they ended the 6-game Grammy road trip 4-2, which is what we had hoped for, I guess. Not the way we anticipated it to go, but definitely the 4-2 you wanted to get out of it. So they're 2 games over 500 now, but I would think it's got to change dramatically. I guess maybe they think or know more about Gabe Vincent than we do of him actually coming back and being able to play later in the season. But yeah, Vanderbilt, again, one of the best, if not the best, because of Anthony Davis, obviously, the second best defender on the team. And his energy, he doesn't necessarily score a lot of points every game, but rebounds and steals and deflections and running around playing defense against the best scorer on the other team, and not having Cam Reddish in right now also for the Lakers. There's just it seems like every time they take a step forward or two, there's another step or two back, and it just they're stuck at 2 games over 500, I guess, for a reason, and injuries is a big part of that. So it'll be interesting to see what Rob and them go after here at the deadline. You know, they only have the 1 first-round pick they can trade and do anything with, so they got to be really smart about what they do, whoever it is that they go out and add. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions around this Laker team in the trade deadline. And again, Thursday is the deadline, and it's also Kobe night with the statue unveiled. So a lot going on in Lakerland between now and Thursday afternoon.
I'm hoping that they don't ditch, I'm sorry, that 2029 first round pick. I don't feel like there's anybody really on the market that's worth it besides maybe DeJounte. But the way that freaking D'Lo has been playing, now I get that he is a roller coaster, but again, like I said before, there's no guarantee that DeJounte shows up in Los Angeles and does the same thing he did in San Antonio and Atlanta. You know, the bright lights of LA changed a lot of people, and it's something, well, one, that D'Lo was born into, I guess, right, by being drafted here. But 2, he's, you know, obviously come accustomed to it again. He was the star in New York. Now, granted, it was the other team in New York, not the Knicks, but, and then, you know, coming back to LA, he knows what the lights mean and what the pressure is. DeJounte's the only one that I can see, and I don't even really feel like they need that right now. In my opinion, I think they should move and try to figure out how to get somewhat a replacement to Vanderbilt. You're not going to be able to replace his defense. There's very few people in the league, especially ones that are available, that can play his caliber of defense. But someone that I feel like you can get close to and who I've heard is on the trade market, now the asking price is a bit much, is Dorian Finney-Smith. I think that he is a notch below Vanderbilt on defense, but probably a good 3 notches above him on offense.
Yeah,
he's got a lightning shot. He shoots like almost 38%, if not over 38% from 3. He played with the Mavericks for a long time and Luka, so he knows how to play off ball. That's not a problem because Luka has the ball like 98% of the time when he's on the floor. So he knows how to play off ball, and that works perfectly with LeBron. Obviously, even works great with D'Lo and Austin when they're running the offense.
Yeah, true.
The problem is they want a first round pick or 2 for Dorian Finney-Smith, and he is, in my opinion, as much as I like the guy, and I'm obviously talking him up right now, he's not worth a first round pick in my opinion. He's worth another good player in a trade. And if you need a pick, we'll give you a second, maybe 2 second round picks or something like that. He's not worth a first round pick, especially since the Lakers don't have very much of him at all. Agree or disagree?
Completely agree. I would never give up a first rounder for him. Again, it's not a knock on Dorian Finney-Smith. He's a great player and a role player at that, but yeah, he's not worth that much. Now, you know, between now and Thursday's deadline, Brooklyn obviously will probably lower their price once people realize they're not going to get anything from anybody because it's way too high of an asking price. So,
way too high.
But the other thing too is Pelinka's been really good the last couple of years when he does do deadline deals. That some of them come out of nowhere that we don't expect. Like that Rui deal last year was not rumored. There was no talk about it. It was all of a sudden just done, and he was here. So don't be shocked if he pulls some weird deal that they come out of nowhere we don't see coming, and it actually does, you know, solve that problem. Obviously, like I mentioned, Gabe Vincent, maybe they know he's closer to coming back than we know. And that will be kind of a way if he does come back and play, it's in a sense kind of like you got somebody at the deadline either in a buyout or not, because you haven't had him all year. So I don't know. It's just a lot of things that can happen between now and Thursday. And I'm sure Twitter will be all over the place the next 3 days.
And see, that's a great point, the buyout. I kind of forgot about. That's what I think we should wait for. I mean, I know it's not guaranteed, but let's see if Kyle Lowry gets bought out and we can get another playmaker scorer at the guard position while obtaining another forward to try to play defense on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wing-driven league right now, and as much as I like LeBron, motherfucker's 40 years old. So, you know, it'd be nice to get somebody on the wing there that can move. And again, Reddish being hurt, Vanderbilt possibly being out the rest of the season, that's where I'd like to upgrade.
Yeah, and plus Cam Reddish hopefully back in another week or so from the ankle sprain. Maybe even just sit Cam Reddish out until the All-Star break, which is another week or so, and then by the time you come back, he's fully healthy, ready to go. Maybe you get Gabe Vincent back, you get hopefully Finney-Smith in a trade, you get Lowry off a deadline. And, you know, ultimately last year, the Lakers, after the trade deadline, they were the best team, if not, maybe second best team record-wise, since then until the end of the season going into the playoffs. So maybe that's what they kind of can do this year as well and ride the wave and see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we don't run into freaking Denver. We're going to continue, though, like you were talking about. You just mentioned the All-Star game. They have a fun little court that they were trying to do here. It's some state-of-the-art LED full video court that's going to be posted up at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis for a lot of the events of All-Star Weekend. I think you have a clip of kind of what it looks like, right?
Yeah, dude, you got to check this thing out. It is crazy looking.
All right, check it out. Damn, dude, that actually is pretty sick.
Right?
I like that. I mean, kind of gimmicky, but really cool. Really cool. Is it slippery though? Shoot,
It's supposed
is it
to,
supposed to feel like basketball court?
I was gonna say, I think it's an LED glass cover. I'm not exactly sure how it'll play on as far as running up and down, but that's again why it's for the celebrity game, the skills competition, 3-point shootout, slam dunk contest. It's not going to be actual NBA All-Star game that's going to be played on it. So, but it will be cool to kind of see how they use those visual effects and the tracking of the player on the floor as well.
Yeah, that was
video.
cool.
So again, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you get a chance to go to YouTube and search Our View from the Bench, you can see the video. It looks like it's going to be really fun and probably something they continue to do moving forward in All-Star Game weekends.
I like it. Is the Steph versus Sabrina going to be shot there too? I'm assuming, yeah.
I believe so. That is part of the thing. Yeah, Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry will go in a 3-point shootout between them because they are the two best 3-point shooters as far as 3-point contests go in the NBA and WNBA. So be interesting to see how that goes. I'm not sure how that'll work as far as like, are they each using the 3-point line from the NBA or is she using the WNBA length?
She's using hers.
The LED
hers
thing,
and her ball.
Okay, I guess I'd say the LED probably gives them the opportunity to make one side of the court each different sizes because you can control what it looks like. So that's probably
or just like each turn, right? You have like you just turn on the NBA side, and then you turn it off, and you turn on it doesn't have to be opposite sides of the court. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think Steph's gonna lose. I think it's, in my opinion, I guess it's on the record because we're recording, but in my opinion, it's kind of like a gimmick thing to get the WNBA some more attention. Steph's in a lose-lose position. If he wins, oh, okay, you beat Sabrina, you're rude. If he loses, oh, wow, I can't believe he lost to the. But he's got 2 daughters. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of like the Kobe, right? He's into, which is great, bro. I mean, glad for the WNBA. They should have their own league, and that's, but I think it's going to be kind of, I mean, I'm rooting for Steph. No offense to Sabrina.
Yeah.
But Steph is fucking nasty. So I'm hoping he can pull it off, but I have a feeling he might lose, man, because Sabrina's.
Dude, she is really good. And I would assume in the future, Caitlin Clark will be somebody that has to do something like this for the WNBA too once she gets there because she is killing.
I saw that logo 3 the other night.
Oh my gosh, she's got so many of those. It's crazy.
Yeah. Nah. Last NBA story before we break out of the court. This one was kind of a cool one, but kind of I don't think it happened really. So there was a lot of talk going on last week that basically by the 2nd, which was last Friday, I believe, Tony Snell needed to sign with a team in order to get the NBA benefits. He has played 9 seasons in the NBA, but you need 10 in order to qualify for the lifetime medical benefits that the NBA provides. I think he found a quote and a little bit more information about his family. This was kind of a crazy story. Charles Barkley even talked about it, but I was hoping that he could sign on a team too.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's right now. I think he plays for the Maine Lobsters or whatever their G League
Red Claws.
Red Claws. I knew it had something to do with lobsters, which is Boston's G League affiliated team. So he's down there playing. So he's still trying to get in there. I think he's only 32, so he's still got an opportunity. He's not 36 or 37. He's still got a couple years, but I believe he needs to sign a contract and play at least 40 more games in the NBA in order to get the 10-year vet exemption that you talked about to get the coverage for him and his kids. He has 2 kids that are on the autistic spectrum. So part of that is like he said, it's not something I truly need, but it would not only be for myself, but for my family, my wife and my kids. And so like you mentioned, Charles Barkley had a little bit of a plea, I guess, last Thursday on the TNT pregame show. So we're going to go ahead and play that clip for you.
I read an article yesterday. Tony Snell?
Yeah. Needing to be signed.
By the end of this week, because he's got 2 kids with autism, and he needs to play to the end of the year to get a 10-year medical to help him take care of his 2 autistic kids. I'm hoping, man, the NBA has been great to all of us sitting up here.
And you guys are going to be playing basketball forever, making gazillion dollars. I hope one of you guys sign Tony so his 2 autistic kids can get great medical care. I read that article.
Or the league Adam Silver comes in and it makes an exception and he gets the it's only 40 games, so he can make.
I'm just telling you,
that's an easier way.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I hope a team signs him for the rest of the season because, I don't know a lot about autism. I'm not gonna say that, but man, I know it's got to be expensive to have 2 young kids with that situation. So, I'm hoping the NBA. We always talk about what a family we are.
Right.
Let's sign that kid for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with Charles, bro, and I get it. But I mean, 32-year-old. Granted, he kind of a 3-and-D specialist, but he was never really at the top of his class. Playing 9 years in the NBA, don't get me wrong. I've never played one day in the NBA, so that's not necessarily a knock. But he is famous for that game, Corey. He played 28 minutes in the game when he was with Milwaukee. 28 minutes. It isn't like he came at the end of the game.
Yeah.
28 minutes of 48. So there's only 20 minutes missing from the game. He recorded 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, but he did have 0 turnovers. So he basically did absolutely nothing in the entire game. He played for 20. Yeah, a lot of running. Definitely did some running for sure. So, I don't know. It's sad to see. I was hoping that he could get that 10th year because, if anything, I agree, man. It's now granted, he probably made a couple $1 million playing in the NBA, so he, should be able to maybe afford some insurance. But that's not the point. The point is that it's hard. I don't personally have children, especially any that are on the autism spectrum, but it's got to be difficult to, it's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into it. I do know someone in my car club that has a son who's on it, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of doctor's visits, all sorts of specialists and stuff like that. So it would have been nice to see him get signed, but I unfortunately don't think he did, right?
No, he didn't. But Kenny Smith did mention in the clip as well that, it'd be nice if Adam Silver could kind of step in and make like an exemption to the rule since he's so close kind of thing. But Charles just seemed to be like, well, some team can just step up and do it. It doesn't have to necessarily be a good team or anybody. He's not asking for a bunch of playing time or anything. Just in the long run, do something that's right as far as that goes. Because we know how the American healthcare system here is completely all over the place and different compared to other countries. So it's just one of those things. Again, Tony Snell talked about it. It's not necessarily for him. He's just trying to do something that's right for his family and his kids.
Well, maybe he could try it next year or something. I guess technically it does not. I don't think it's 10 consecutive years. Obviously, he hasn't been in the NBA, so I think it's just 10 total years. Or like you said, maybe Adam Silver could grant some sort of small exemption, maybe half credit, or just for his kids, or I don't know, something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. But again, he's only 32. If he's still playing in the G League, that means he'll probably be playing next year. Maybe he'll get an opportunity next season.
Hopefully. We got a couple baseball stories before we get out of here. We're going to start with a big one. There's been a couple small ones that for about a team that I don't really care about. But we're going to start with this big one, dude. Just announced, I believe, today. Bobby Witt Jr. getting his bag. Kansas City is not dumb for making sure that this dude is locked up. He agreed to a contract extension today that will pay him $288.8 million over the next 11 seasons. Yeah, I know you have a breakdown of this, bro. How does this go?
So not only that, it's 11 seasons, as you said, for 288, but there's also a 3-year club option at that back end. So it could end up being 14 years with another 90 million added on top. So
wow,
there's plenty of money to go around here. But the biggest thing I think that's the winning part of this for baseball, at least, is it's a small market team spending money because the whole thing is what?
How much of it is deferred?
There's no defer in this contract now.
All right, Royals, good job.
It is not an annual average the same every year. Like he's getting paid $2 million and 24, 7 and 25, 13 and 26, 19 and 27. Then it really jumps up in 28 to 30, then 35 for the last parts of the contract before that 3-year option comes up for the Royals. And then it's another 33, 28, 28 on that back end. So there's plenty of money there.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. No worries. Plenty of money there. But again, the small market organization doing it is a good sign for the league itself. Obviously, Oakland is leaving, going to Vegas. That's a whole different kind of small market because they don't spend any money anyway. But the big thing in baseball is all these small market teams never want to give out these big contracts to these players. So they end up going to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the big organizations that spend a lot.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. This kid is good. I mean, he's 23 years old. Last season, he had 276 average, 30 home runs, 96 RBIs, 97 runs, 49 stolen bases, and led the MLB with 11 triples and an 813 OPS. So he is legit. He is the guy. He is their stone they're going to build this team on now that they're kind of, I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs since they won the World Series back in 2015. They've completely, they had to tear that all down and kind of start over, but now they have a cornerstone that they want to build on. They've spent some money in the offseason to bring in some pieces. I think one of them was Will Smith, the reliever from Houston, who has been in 3 straight World Series for different teams. So maybe that's a good sign for them. But yeah, Kansas City doing the right thing and signing a kid that they drafted and hopefully have for a long time, and they can start to build and be a real contender in the AL Central.
Well, like you said, I mean, I wonder, is this mean that, is this kind of like sign that small market teams are going to start spending big money? Because it would be nice to kind of see some more parity in baseball. Now, we kind of seem to have it a little bit with the Rangers obviously recently winning. They haven't won, well, ever. So there's that. The Diamondbacks, who they played in the World Series, which is another small market team. But like you said, actually the Diamondbacks, spending a little bit smartly. They have what, $100 something million committed to Corbin Carroll nice and early.
Yep.
But yeah, man, hopefully this is a sign to come, kind of break up the, oh, he's a free, where's he? Oh, he's probably going to the Dodgers. Oh, no, he's probably going to the Yankees. Oh, he's probably going to the Phillies. Because Phillies, bro, they've been spending money too. Bryce Harper and Trey Turner. So that'd be cool, man. I'd like to see that. And the Royals are a cool team. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is part ownership, spending that money.
That's true. That's a good point. They did the Chiefs spent a lot of money on him getting there, and now he's part ownership in the Royals, as you mentioned. Maybe he's kind of pushing them too. Like, let's go spend some money and be competitive. Let's not just, take the fans' money and the TV money that we have and just kind of pocket it. Like, the whole point of owning an organization is you want to get better and improve and go to win something. This is a step in the right direction for the Royals, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, agreed. And he's a hell of a player.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, that's awesome. Well, back to the big market teams, who are the ones always spending money. Dodgers make a trade with another big market team in the Yankees. They trade Caleb Ferguson to the Yankees and get lefty reliever Matt Gage. Also, they get low-level pitching prospect Christian Zazueta Jr. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I don't know any of these names, Corey. Can you give me some help here?
Yeah, so Caleb Ferguson has been in the Dodgers organization for a couple years. He's one of their better, I wouldn't say better, but decent relievers they've had. They're trying to switch up their thing. The part of it was they only had 2 lefties, I think, in their entire bullpen and starting pitching staff. So bringing in Matt Gage, who hasn't pitched a lot in the MLB level, but the Dodgers always seem to find these guys who don't do a lot elsewhere and tend to do really good for them. So that might be the case here, unfortunately, for them. But again, that doesn't mean they win in October, so that's okay. We'll see what happens.
True. They just spend billions and billions of freaking dollars and have all the best. That lineup is so insane to just look at. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they actually had their Dodger Fest over the weekend, and Mookie Betts is going to lead off. Robert said that Freeman will be second and Ohtani will be third in the lineup. That's kind of what they're going to go with to start. So,
well, those are the 3 that you won't get the most at bats, so that makes sense. And obviously, you want the biggest bat third, so that makes sense too.
Yeah, absolutely. That means Freeman's going to get a lot of pitches, and then it'll be interesting to see who they put at cleanup. Either Will Smith, their catcher, who's really good, or do they go to Oscar Hernandez, who they brought in the offseason as well. So, and then by trading
probably switch it up.
Ferguson, they also re-signed Ryan Brazier, who they brought in last year. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth $9 with up to 13 with incentives and everything in it. Now, Brazier, this is them finding a diamond in the rough that everybody else can't figure out. When he was on the Red Sox last year to start the season, he was terrible. He had given up 17 earned runs in 21 innings out of the bullpen. So they cut him and put him for assignment. He was released. The Dodgers signed him. Now he is 36 going on 37, so he's a little older, but they signed him to a minor league contract last year. Excuse me. Debuted for them in a 2-0 win against the Angels in June. And then the rest of the season, he was lights out. He had struck out 38 batters and allowed 3 earned runs and 18 hits across 38 innings. And I think he had 1 appearance in the postseason against the Diamondbacks. He did decent. He gave up 1 home run to Luis Gurriel, but I think the Diamondbacks were just hitting home runs off the Dodgers. And that's every point you could see. But again, another one that somebody else gave up on him. They brought him in and fixed him somehow, and here he is.
Damn.
Another one of the Dodgers just doing.
So from DFA to freaking only 3 earned runs and 18 hits in 38 innings. That's good, bro.
Yeah,
from not wanting to be on a major league roster to doing that for the number 2 seed in the National League. That's pretty good.
Yeah, again, they always seem to find these Dodgers, guys that everybody else can't seem to figure out or get to play well. they go there and it's like a reclamation project for them every time, and they just seem to find him every year. So this was another one, and obviously Brazier got rewarded with getting a big contract here in the offseason.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, for you. Well, that will wrap up our episode for the day. Most of it, of course. We still have our fun fact because it's Monday, right, man?
Heck yeah, it's Monday.
You know what that means?
MILF Monday. Let's run it.
I cannot believe a fine woman like this produced a guy like Stifner. Ooh! I took some MILF. What the hell is that? MILF.
Man, I love facts.
Yeah!
Hey, guys. MILF Monday. All right, man. Super Bowl week. What MILF Monday fact do you have for me today, man?
You called it, sir. Super Bowl week. So I found one that I thought was really interesting, although it is going to be a little heartbreaking for me at the end once I get to the details. But that's another situation. So with Super Bowl on Sunday, they announced the referee crew, as we mentioned. The head referee is going to be Bill Vinovich, but one of the guys that's going to be on the crew is Terry Killens. And by doing so in this game, he will be the first person to both officiate a Super Bowl and play in a Super Bowl. He was a linebacker in the NFL for about 5 years. One of those years he was in Tennessee on the Titans when they were in the Super Bowl back against the St. Louis Rams, or the greatest show on turf as they were called, which the Titans famously lost by 1 yard when Kevin Dyson couldn't quite reach for the end zone at the end of regulation. So, like I said, sad.
I was rooting for you guys, man. I was rooting for you guys. That was Super Bowl 34. I was rooting for you guys, and that play. You guys, honestly, the only problem, there was time left on the clock. The problem was you had no timeouts.
Yeah.
If a timeout would have won the game.
Yeah, if he would have caught it and got tackled at the 1.5 yard line by Mike Jones. Yes, Mike Jones.
Who?
Then we would have been able to call a timeout and had one more shot with McNair and possibly give it to Eddie George to just run up the middle and possibly tie that game with the extra point and go into overtime. But again, famously, Kevin Dyson with Al Michaels calling it short by 1 yard, and he cannot reach out and get the end zone. And the cannons go off, and the St. Louis Rams get their first Super Bowl in Rams team history.
Jeez, that's crazy, man. Well, like I said, I was rooting for you guys, so kind of sucks, but it is what it is. That's a great fact, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, we got one of those facts pretty much every episode. We got facts on Monday, we got history on Thursday, or facts on our first episode and history on our second episode of the week. If you guys want to find more, you can find them on pretty much every single one of our episodes. Corey, where can they find those, man?
Yeah, so like Brendan mentioned earlier, if you want to listen to us and you're on the go, if you want to just hear the audio version, you can check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if you want to see us on the screen and all the little different videos we play for you in detail, you can search on YouTube and follow us at Our View from the Bench.
Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OurViewFTB. Being that it's Monday, we got a week ahead of us. I know I'm mostly excited for the trade deadline / Kobe Day on Thursday.
Heck yeah.
How is your week looking?
Actually, not too bad. The Ducks are still on the break from the All-Star game this weekend, even though the NHL had 3 games today, which is crazy. They're already back at it.
They are men.
The Ducks had one of the last games played before the break, so they get the back end here after, so they don't come back till Friday. So I'm actually off tomorrow. Actually got therapy tomorrow in the morning, and then I'm doing stretch lab, my appointment tomorrow. So I'm going to be all self-care day tomorrow. Hopefully it's not raining all day again, but it sounds like it's going.
Yeah, sounds like it's gonna.
But yeah, other than that, man, just getting ready for Friday. Actually, the Ducks game on Friday is Offspring night, so that's going to be kind of cool. So we'll be.
Dude, I love Offspring. That's sick.
We'll be doing a lot of prep work for that on Wednesday and Thursday. We're going to have a bunch of collab merch ready for Friday. And yeah, so I'm just going to be doing that. And again, self-care day for me tomorrow. But how about you, sir?
Well, work all week like normal. We are having like a Super Bowl, a pre-Super Bowl potluck at work. Going to be rocking the Tom Brady Bucks jersey, kind of get into the spirit of the Super Bowl week. But other than that, just a normal week trying to, like you said, survive this crazy SoCal rain. We never get it, and it is insane. So just trying to, staying alive, man. Staying alive. But other than that, man, we appreciate you all checking in for this extremely long episode. We hope you stayed with us. It was fun for us. We appreciate you as always, and thank you for seeing things from our view from the bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace.
This was a Sycamore 4th Studios production.